It's becoming progressively more nerve-wracking to talk to the opposite sex because of how self-conscious young people are becoming in a world where cameras are on them all the time. Young people are really hardly drinking now. But there's an element of my brain that would almost prefer a young person to go to a party and have some fun and scroll TikTok every Friday night for 5 hours. Whilst alcohol is still incredibly disruptive, at least there'd be social and requirement for you to gain confidence and have fun and laugh.
TJ Power is a neuroscientist, international speaker, and author.
He gives easy-to-adopt, scientifically backed advice to empower people to live healthier lifestyles.
What is the problem with spending huge amounts of time on screens?
We as humans desperately crave a chemical called dopamine. Spending our entire experience on the screens is draining that key chemical that gives us that positive feeling. Too much time on the screens leads you into just a depressed, demotivated, unenthusiastic state. We've got to consider what our life currently looks like. And it's basically wake up and grab small screen. Spend 10 hours glued to a medium-sized screen. Constantly procrastinate with the small screen. Eventually unwind and detox out of your work with a big screen. And that's our whole life right now. And in order to break that trap and discover that there's still a world out there that doesn't involve the screens, you have to start spending time in.
Just before we get started on the podcast, I wanted to let you know that we're doing a new tonic Black Friday discount, 21% off all of our products. Head to the website and stock up. This is probably going to be the most aggressive discount we're going to do in a very long time. Enjoy this episode. It's a good one. What is the problem with spending huge amounts of time each day on screens?
We as humans desperately crave a chemical called dopamine, and it's the thing that makes us feel so satisfied and fulfilled and excited by our life. Spending our entire experience on the screens is draining that key chemical that gives us that positive feeling. And too much time on the screens leads you into just a depressed, demotivated, unenthusiastic state.
I would say I'm going to feel personally attacked a lot in this episode. I am a dopamine junkie, for sure, self-declared. This podcast, we'll record it today. If it was up to me, it would go out tonight. I want the gratification and the dopamine. Even if they said the edit's not finished, I go get it out.
Yeah.
People need it. I need it. The YouTube videos, I rush them so I can get the score and it's a 1 out of 10. I'm like, oh. So you're talking to the right person about this. So if people are almost medicating dopamine, what are the consequences of that?
Yeah, and for context as well, the only reason I've got into this is because I spent 10 years or so as a monster dopamine addict. My whole life, really, actually, since I can even remember being a 4-year-old trying to climb onto a shelf so I could spoon brown sugar into my mouth and it cut out of a cupboard. I've always had that just insane urge for dopamine. And the big consequence is you leading a life that just doesn't actually feel like you're accessing your full potential, and you're living in a somewhat reduced version of what you could access with your work, with your relationships, with how you bond with your kids, with your exercise, with your health. You're just reducing your capacity to feel the beauty that your life could offer.
So you have a principal dose. So we're looking at 4 hormones that govern the brain and make us feel slightly different. We did a YouTube video on about it 6 months ago. And through the conversation we're going to have, I think it would be great, first of all, for you to tell people which the dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, endorphins.
Yep.
Cool. There you go.
Nailed it.
But then every time we veer into a subject or category, let's bring it back to remind them what it is that is being involved here. So if you start from the top and give us a breakdown about those things, because I think some people have heard dopamine.
Yeah.
They might even throw it around themselves, but they don't actually know what it is or what it does.
Yeah. So with all of these chemicals, it's super useful to imagine why are they actually living in our brain, not how they're interacting with us now, but why did they actually evolve within us? And within something called evolutionary psychology, there's this big theoretical framework called evolutionary mismatch, which is just the idea that the human brain spent 300,000 years running around in a forest as hunter-gatherers, and we've spent about 30 years as modern, sedentary, digital humans. And these 4 chemicals developed for us to experience that life and to help us survive that experience of life. Dopamine, the first chemical, just arrived in our brain and was generated to give us the motivation to do hard things, effectively. So we'd wake up and life wasn't such a breeze as it is now. You'd wake up and it'd be right, I've got to restart a fire with no matches or lighter. That would be a nightmare in itself. You've got to try and rebuild your shelter. It might be raining, insane wind. You've then got to find food for your kids, your family. You've got to hunt, forage. And dopamine was generating motivation within us. And then whenever we were doing things that were advantageous to helping our group survive, we were getting what we would now call a dopamine hit, where you think the fire has lit, I found some food, I've got some shelter. And we might have got 3 of these dopamine hits a day through intense effort. Nowadays, it's more like 400 or 500 dopamine hits a day as a result of what our phones can do and sugar can do and so on. But effectively, this is just the chemical motivates us to do hard things.
So for instance, I'm playing Call of Duty with the boys. I hit a headshot to save the day. Everyone's like, Smiths, you're the king. I'm getting that dopamine. But then it could be 30 seconds later. Again, you get a good kill in Call of Duty. What I'm really doing is I'm achieving nothing in the real world, but I'm getting dopamine hits. And then would I be right in thinking that, let's say I finish that game and in the multiplayer menu between, I get given an accolade. You were MVP of the team. I'm like, there's more of it. Because I loved gaming as a kid.
Same.
And it was...
Tried to become a professional gamer at like 13.
Well, playing what? Was it like a Grand Turismo? Call of Duty as well. We could just change this. The problem with Call of Duty, there is none. But for me, it sounds bonkers. During the pandemic, I look back at lockdown, I loved it. Sounds really bad to say. Not that people were dying, but the fact that kind of the avenues of dopamine from work were limited, from travel was limited, from all those things. So I started playing Warzone, which I think for a lot of men during the lockdown,
it was big.
It was kind of like when they got, I'm not getting too much, they got rid of the multiplayer map that we all played and people got sad because they had memories, they had connection, they had all of this. So we're probably veering into maybe other hormones. Which one? That connection that I feel with other players, what would that be?
More of an oxytocin thing, like a deep memory of a love you had for something that was. And that's more of like this connection loving oxytocin chemical.
So I'm getting dopamine in the game, but then in hindsight, I'm getting oxytocin. I'm feeling that connection with the boys, lockdown, rose-tinted glasses. So then we had that game and it was almost as if you could get all of those things that you wanted out of life without having to get up off the sofa.
Yeah.
And it was a dangerous thing because suddenly real life, I'm going to have to go do actual things where I can just plug into the matrix of gaming. Would you say, and this plays into screen time as well, is gaming as bad? Is it worse? Is it better? Where does that sit in the landscape of screens, devices? And
yes, there's a real tier list here from like total nightmare would probably be watching like super hardcore porn. That would probably be like the hardest thing for our dopamine system to cope with, up to kind of the best thing we could possibly do on a screen, which would be like really creative, trying to generate some kind of work project that could earn us an income. That would be like a good thing to be doing on a screen. And then you've got a lot that sits between this gap. And a lot of it is to do with the difference between active and passive dopamine. In that scenario there, we're talking about gaming. Whilst it's not like the absolute optimal thing to do on a screen, it requires more of an active engagement of your brain and attention and effort in order to receive a reward. Like you don't just get given the headshot to win the game. You've got to concentrate and try and get the headshot to win the game.
Skill acquisition.
And it might have taken 20 minutes and you might have had to coordinate with the team in order to get that. I go super hard on that aspect and that's fun. Like that's actually really mimicking what men particularly, but men and women did for hundreds of thousands of years. We worked as a team to try and get a reward. That's like really why gaming is such a huge thing and why Warzone, for example, is so massive because of that idea of working collectively to achieve a goal. In a situation where you look at like getting your headshot in Call of Duty to win a game versus scrolling short videos, the big difference is scrolling short videos is purely passive. Gaming is somewhat active. So your brain is having to engage less effort. When your brain engages effort, it slightly blunts the dopamine spike. So the dopamine kind of slowly generates and goes up a little bit and cools back down. When you don't engage any effort and it's pure passive, your dopamine just goes bang, super, super high and fast. In the same way you'd imagine cocaine, sugar, alcohol, short videos are very similar to them in the brain. Goes up super fast, burns out the dopamine engine, and then the dopamine crashes super hard. That's when we get into these like low dopamine, super depleted states.
I want to get into hardcore porn. But first of all, if we look back at what we're saying there about, dopamine, reward systems, it's one of those things that I find that where you say that passive, that building towards that creating side of things, I think that's definitely what a lot of humans enjoy. But video games for me, before everyone kind of just tarnishes it, I think it can set people up. So for instance, when I was at school, I would never do homework. I didn't see the value in it. And the repercussions of it were you just get told off. Or you might get a detention. I'm just going to hang out with my mates for another hour. Yeah. But when you look at video games, there's repercussions to an action.
Okay.
And so in a video game like Grand Theft Auto, you start with nothing. Mm-hmm. And the more you work and the more skills you acquire and the more missions you do, you get more access to the map. Mm-hmm. And that's the way I see real life, where almost everything, my career, finances, everything is like a video game where if I can spend a bit of time maybe doing something that I don't particularly want to do, I can get access to more resources.
Yeah.
So I think video games in some respect taught me a lesson. My brain, when it comes to those things, was absolutely happy to do the work necessary. And I feel that when it came to homework, I just wasn't. So one of the things that I have, which is slightly kind of a bit of a theory, is one of the reasons that some people in life might be more attracted to video games is because video games give you clear objectives of what to do. And in everyday life, actually, it's kind of like, go to school, get good grades, go to uni, create loads of debt, and try to go get a job. Then what? Obviously, just, get someone pregnant and get in a relationship and stay with the same person for 60 years. Cool. Whereas in the video game, it's like, go to this place at this time, do this. And I feel like some people in life are kind of drawn to the reality with more objectives. And I feel that's like a real place where maybe society has let people down, where we kind of just get them to wander into the workplace, wander into university. Like some people are 2 years into a degree in a subject they don't even like, that they don't really want to do, to go into a workforce they don't really, there's no objectives to it. So those worlds to me are hugely different. I almost don't blame people for wanting to lean into the virtual side of dopamine chasing.
Yeah, for sure.
Because the reality and that active side of it, going into the workplace, can seem kind of daunting. You're not sure where the next step is or what it looks like.
And you have some brains that are going to seek for the more exciting, objective, high dopamine life than brains that may be pretty happy with school, university, consultancy type journey. Both are fair, both to generate you an income and provide you a life. But interestingly, when you look at this evolutionary mismatch idea, we, about 12,000 years ago as humans, invented farming. And that was really, really significant for human evolution. Because as soon as we invented farming, instead of 100% of the group having to focus on finding food, for example, in the Hadza tribe, which is in Central Africa that still operates today, a 7-year-old is already providing 50% of their own food. A 7-year-old is already hunting and finding food itself. And all the men and women are all focused on that objective of find food. And it was a very high dopamine lifestyle of just chase, objective, try and find reward in order to survive. Farming came out 12,000 years ago, as if it was launched like a business. And then we started massively slowing down as a species. And the advent of everything we see of Greece and Rome and suddenly writing and all these new ideas that were born out of the fact we suddenly could go slower and we had much more time because there was a small percentage providing the food resources. There's this theory that you either in the modern world have either a hunter brain, which is one that would be from 288,000 years of evolution, this high dopamine objective brain, or you might have the modern 12,000-year-old farmer brain, which is happy to go steadier. With how you approach your life, you have that hunter more, I don't know if you have ADHD, but a more dopamine-seeking brain. It could be ADHD, it could just be the fact you want to chase dopamine. And if you have one of those brains that's I really want to get fired up, I want to do a lot, you're able to achieve immense amounts, but you're more vulnerable to digital addiction. And beginning to figure out how am I going to channel this immense capacity I have to get hold of that resource dopamine into something that's going to be beneficial to my life. That's where you have to try and hone in on.
One of the issues that I have myself is I can all too easily just push this under the umbrella of work.
Yeah.
So the addiction side of it, I look at it, but it's productive addiction, if that's your thing. Can we coin that term?
The way the dopamine devil talks to us, yeah.
So it's productive addiction. You have the virtue of I'm providing for my family, I'm paying the bills, I'm looking after everyone, even if that addiction is still there. So even scrolling sometimes, I could look at it as research, looking for trends. I'm very good at lying to myself and, trying to mask the fact that there is probably a lot of issues there with that consumption. It always hasn't been that way. It's just kind of morphed into different things. But now I can call it work and it can be productive. I find it very difficult to switch off, very difficult to stop that part of my brain. Because now, I suppose the idea of chilling or relaxing or having time off, I don't see any dopamine in that. So I don't see the reward. So I'm kind of why would I do that? I don't think I've had a holiday in years where I haven't worked.
The interesting thing is, in that boring, still, uncomfortable place is where immense creative ideas might actually appear within your own mind that you're whoa, I didn't think of that. If I actually said to you, when you get back to Australia, for example, you've got to try and go for a 90-minute walk without your phone. And
anxiety.
In other words, you'd be fuck, how am I going to do that? So many thoughts, worry, stress, I need to be productive, I need to write down my ideas, all these different things that would come to you. And the beginning of that walk would be a flood of information hitting your brain because our brain tries to almost operate at the same speed it's been operating when it's been on technology when we come away from it. So it's rush in our thoughts. After about 15 minutes, you cross what we call at Dose Lab, the boredom barrier, which is this bit where your brain's oh, okay, I'm just going towards a more settled state. And it starts to slow. Your brainwaves start to settle. After that 90-minute walk, I would literally guarantee and bet all my money on it that you'd send me a voice note being I've had this insane idea. I can't believe I've had this idea for whichever aspect of your business or YouTube or Instagram, whatever it might be. Because there is such immense creativity that lies deep within us that we're getting distracted by on this surface level kind of fake productivity sort of world.
I was sat in a random train station in Stratford-upon-Avon the other day, and there's a guy opposite us on the platform opposite, just not doing anything. And I'm there quickly catching up on my Discord, trying to message a few people, and I'm looking over and I'm like, this guy's he's just doing nothing. It's wigging me out. I'm like, what are you doing, bro? You're just thinking.
Yeah.
And then I think to myself, James, when you were at school, there was none of this. So I was like, what? We just left the classroom and just kind of walked around.
Yeah.
And then when I was waiting for Mum to come pick me up, I was just stood there. What was I thinking? What was I doing? What was I scheming? What ideas were I coming up with? There you
go. So in the quiet, you would have come up with ideas and schemed. You need to ideate and scheme now.
Is it Salvador Dali that used to lay down with a spoon over a glass and he would try to fall asleep, and just as he fall asleep, he would let go of the spoon, it would wake him up and he'd have his most creative ideas.
Okay, interesting.
So I relate
to
like
this. A very peaceful state, okay.
Daniel Kahneman, Thinking Fast and Slow.
Yeah, it's a big book.
So for this, pretty much the brain operates in two systems. So the only time I can get to that boredom barrier is through naps. Actually, a nap to me is the only time I can shut off. I actually have to fully go offline and fall asleep. But then that barrier to just when I'm falling asleep, ideas. And the second one that I use is showers. So some days I'll have 5 showers. And if I'm really seeking creative ideas, I quite literally have to remove myself from, to me, it's from my life, but really it's the screens. And then I'll just have like a 10, 15-minute shower. And then Tay will just see this trail of water through the house. And she's like, what the hell is this? I'm like, I have an idea.
Yeah.
And I'm there in the kitchen, like stark bollock naked with like water dripping everywhere. So I appreciate, in my mind, it's more about having those two elements of thinking. My system 1 is very active. And for me to get into system 2 takes a lot of work. And that 15 minutes that you say I need to do to get past that barrier feels very unproductive.
It isn't unproductive though. That's the big thing to recognize. Like, I've been on such a big journey with this because when I was at university, in my 3rd year, I signed up for a module called mindfulness. And I, to be honest, literally just ticked it on the list because I was doing all these really complicated, like clinical psychology modules. Someone called mindfulness and I thought, oh, nice, one that's a breeze. I'll be able to get a good grade in that. Turned up and there was no tables or chairs in the room. And the guy was like, we're just going to sit in a circle. And that's like, uni never works like that. It's just like sit and listen to a lecturer. And I thought, oh, great, like something a bit different. Like I've always struggled so much with like learning information in the normal way. And then he goes, we're going to sit down in silence for 20 minutes. And I was like, fuck, how the fuck am I going to sit in silence for 20 minutes? And I remember so well, like sitting there for like 2 minutes and then thinking like, no way, like I'm just not going to do this. And I like kind of like flickered my eye open and looked around and saw like these 20 people like really committed to it. And I just thought, no one else is going to open their eyes. So I literally got my phone out and just scrolled my phone for the whole meditation. Like that, to me, the idea of the silence was that hell that I just would avoid it. Week by week, obviously, I had to keep going back to this module. And eventually I started thinking like, maybe there is something in there for me. Like occasionally like a little idea would come to me or just like it would actually be useful reflecting on something and a little idea would come to me. Now me and my partner are trying to take this to a new level where we've just done 4 weeks where we've got rid of our TV and we've not watched any content for 4 weeks. And it's the first time I've ever done this in my life. And it's not that I'm suggesting this is what you have to do, but we're just curious what actually takes place when you push your brain like really out of this digital stimulation and towards this like stillness place that I freaking hate. Well, I did hate. It's coming to be better. And in the evening, like we get to the evening and it's like, okay, so I finished work. I'm not going to go on my computer anymore. That's like one of my goals. I'm going to leave my phone in there and I'm just going to do nothing. Like, what does that even mean to just do nothing? So it's like I'm going to eat some food. I'm going to sit on the sofa and like get bored of that in 1 minute. I'm going to go for a walk, which gets pretty boring pretty fast. Eventually though, you like end up talking to your partner more and you might ideate over your work. Like that might be something you think about and talk about. Or you might be on your own. You're like, okay, I'm just going to have to read a book. In 4 weeks, after 6 months of trying to generate the new idea for my book, my second book, I finally have found it just by doing this activity. Not by even trying to solve the problem, just by the fact my brain was suddenly given all this space. I also just feel when I sit down to work, this like insane level of focus, like that like incessant like going on email, then LinkedIn, then clicking around, like no ability to actually get into deep focus. It's completely different because when I sit down to work, I've got a shit ton of dopamine sitting in my brain because I didn't burn it out the night before. So there's a world where the stillness actually is creating the more productive, more successful life.
I hope that you're enjoying the episode. Isn't it annoying when people on podcasts spend a minute just promoting random crap that you don't even want? So I'm going to do it in 10 seconds. Please head to newtonic.com and buy my stuff. It's really good. Bye-bye. We'll go back to the episode. I definitely feel attacked from what you're saying because I probably think that you're right. And it's
annoying.
I will go through the day pretty long, get to the evening, and by the time we put our son down, we're almost looking forward to just an hour of TV before bed.
For sure.
But then I like to go to bed at 8:30 so we can get a good hour of scrolling in before we go to sleep. So like, I need an hour of Instagram, and then
so it's 7:30 till 8:30 of Netflix.
Yeah,
and then it's 8:30 till 9:30 of TikTok.
Yeah,
is it TikTok or
Instagram Reels?
Okay.
You know, I'll sometimes switch around, and if I'm in a dark, fucked up mood, I'll go on X. I'm like, let's see someone die.
Okay,
yeah, cool. You know, let's just see someone get shot.
Okay,
it's weird when you see someone get shot on X. I'm like, well, how's this?
Yeah, it's actually pretty dark, that.
But then
I've seen something like that and it was like, oof, that creates an uncomfortable feeling.
Yeah, I'm like, do you know what? Let's go back to Instagram Reels. But then sometimes looking at those Reels, I can have a real laugh. And sometimes I can have a moment where I nudge Tay and I go, hey, look at this. And we're having a laugh about it in bed. But then sometimes I do find myself just doing huge amounts of scrolling. And then I'm like, where did the last half hour just go? Is this going to be the rest of my life? But then it's difficult because in some respects, it feels almost calming for me.
Yeah.
Because
it is pseudo-calming.
I'm removing myself from this hyperactive environment of being competitive, driven. It's almost my time to be a wreckhead. During the day, I'm very professional, doing my work tasks. Someone's like, oh, do you want to go for a beer? I'm like, at 2 p.m. I was like, I've got to work, bro. You know, what do you do? Some of my friends, they're like, oh, let's just meet for a beer at 3 p.m. I'm like, I've got shit to do.
Yeah, that's fine.
So in the evening is my time to be a degenerate, to look at people slipping over on ice, to look at bad things happening on X. But it kind of feels like my sacred time. If you would say to take that away, you're taking all that dopamine away. What am I living for? What am I going to do all day to work towards a nothingness? I'm going to sit at my laptop and do all of this stuff so I can do nothing. To me, that sounds hellish. Am I sounding like an addict?
I mean, I obviously relate to it because it's been a freaking nightmare for myself to try and get out of this. But if you get into bed with Tay, and you can be as open about this as you like, but there's a chance that if you decide, okay, 7 days, we're going to see if we can like not watch the Netflix and then not watch TikTok, just as an experiment to see if it makes any difference. You could do it for 7 days and then decide that this was wrong and that you want to go back to the original model. But like, it's sometimes worth trying.
You're like A/B split test it.
Yeah, just like an A/B split test. So it gets to 7:30, kids asleep. It's like, okay, so now we've got an hour. You might decide to go out to that insanely beautiful beach that you have next to your house, which would be a good thing to do. You could sit there, you could like talk. And then eventually you might find yourself getting back into bed. You talk about that like laughter type experience that you get from social media. One of the biggest things I've noticed in the last few weeks of doing this is when you first fall in love with a partner, there's like that magical time where you obviously don't lie in bed together scrolling phones. Like you don't do that at the beginning of a relationship. Like you just talk and get to know each other and have sex with each other and it's just like heaven in bed. And then obviously it becomes like, let's just scroll and get like our dopamine from our phones instead of each other. There's this world where you start like really talking and it actually feels a little bit like that beginning of a relationship where because there's nothing to do, you end up talking about things that you have never talked about before. Not like normal day-to-day boring shit, like real things that are just like really exciting to learn about from each other. So there's that talking, which in my experience has then led to moments of like really intense, like real fun laughter. And then the other aspect of it is because you haven't burnt your dopamine to pieces on the phone and then killed all your motivation, you're much more likely to want to have sex with each other. And that's huge because like humans aren't having as much sex as we used to. Our oxytocin is very unfulfilled. And maybe you're laughing because you're like, no, we shag every day, but...
I have a cut-off. 2:30 p.m. I like to have sex before 2:30. I get tired, man. I'm probably because I'm burnt out.
That's good to get tired from sex and then go to sleep.
I want to schedule it in through the day when the baby's asleep.
Oh, so you're having like 10 a.m. sex?
Yeah, sometime now he's going down between like 11 and 1. So then sometimes if the stars align and I come back from training, the house is empty, the baby's asleep.
And the testosterone's
out.
Go. Yeah, okay.
I'm like shouting down the stairs, come on, it's time. Let's go. But by the evening, I'm like, just kind of a bit tired.
But does that not knock you out in the middle of the day?
No, I like it. It's like a little recharge. Yeah, and then I go back to my desk.
You don't need the nap straight after.
Yeah, then I can focus more on tasks, post-nut clarity.
There is an element of that kind of steadies the dopamine shit. Okay, I mean that.
This probably leads us into hardcore porn.
It does lead us into hardcore porn. Like that's an element.
So I'm kind of worried with porn has been the same allegedly for the last 20 years. It's got a bit weird, whatever. The UK Safety Act, getting 16-year-olds to scan their face to access porn. We'll get into that in a second.
Oh, great.
We're going to be in a world where you tell the AI what you're into, what your fantasies are, whether or not you like to be called daddy, all of these things, and then it will create a reality for you. I mean, we've seen this tapped into a little bit with a genre of porn called POV, point of view, allegedly, where
Never seen it.
Where you can pretend, where you put the VR goggles on, then you get the the Wankathon 5,000. And
Yeah.
no, I'm joking.
I don't know.
I've seen them online.
We'll see what those robots end up looking like.
So you can go into this reality where you can have anything you want. Yeah. Now, the problem I find with that is, and again, we'd be leaning into oxytocin a bit more.
Yeah. There's a dopamine oxytocin trade-off, yeah.
Dopatocin.
Yeah.
Copyright. So then they're getting both at the same time. And already with potentially the likes of OnlyFans, where they get a DM from probably someone in India thinking it's the woman, they get the porn of like the genre they want. They get all the options. They can go Asian, threesomes, lesbians, whatever they want. They've got like a menu that's all free. They got all of these things. It's kind of making the idea of actually seeking and finding a mate in the real world less appealing.
Yeah.
Because they can get all of that at home, a bit like video games. Why go try and become the CEO of a business and provide for a family that could take 40 years when you could just get dubs in the war zone tonight with the boys?
Yeah.
But when we move into the world of AI porn, there's an argument, and this sounds really sad to say it, that could be better than any sex they could find in the real world.
Yeah.
What's that going to do to people?
Better in what way, do you reckon?
So first of all, if you want to have a novel experience with a woman, you've got to seek, find, court, close, let's say. You've got to, potentially talk to 20 women to get 4 numbers, to get 2 to go on a date, to find one that you are compatible with. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of resources.
I had to literally fly to Australia to get my girlfriend. So that was
case in point.
Expensive.
So then, you've got to go for dinners. You've got to be respectful. Not to mention the mental energy and commitment that you've got to put into messaging, back and forth, all of that. So there's a huge amount of work. And although that could be perfect for some dopamine response, there's a lot of work there. So the better scenario could be, I've got to be at work in an hour and 5 minutes. I could just have a quick wank and have a shower and go to work, and I get all of that, and I'll still be on time for work. So that's where I think it could be better. Then we have another thing of men at lower levels of status. So we could argue that this could potentially get worse over the next few years. A status being,
particularly if you watch loads of AI porn.
Exactly. If you're let's say a young man at the moment, the opportunity to be incredibly competent at something and well regarded for it could be quite difficult unless you're an athlete, which could be mostly a genetic lottery. If you're over 6 foot and 100 kilograms and incredibly fast, you're probably going to do quite well at most sports.
Not me.
But if you're 5'1" and you're 60 kg soaking wet, your chances of that much harder. The second way that people could accrue status is through access to resources, wealth, success, etc. With less men going to university than ever before, more women dominating universities, potentially, this mismatch between dating preferences and men and women, and the top 10, 20% of men getting the majority of women, all these things. This opportunity for men to seek porn as the easier and better option, I believe, could potentially be only something that's going to get much, much worse.
Yeah, I mean, it's coming for sure. Excuse the pun. And that was unintentional. And I'll give you a scenario and then we can think into this. If I could offer you a situation where for the next 70 years, I'm going to put $1 million in your bank account a week. Okay.
Bit of a pay cut.
Yeah.
I'm joking.
$1 million in your bank account a week. But for that $1 million, you have to spend for the next 70 years every single day just scrolling social media. That's all you're allowed to do. 10 hours a day, you're just going to scroll social media. You're not allowed to achieve anything. You're not allowed to do your Jiu-Jitsu. You're not allowed to do anything that's effort with your wife. Nothing. Would you take the deal?
Probably no. Yeah, you're right. Probably not.
And the only reason that's the case is, of course, I'm sure you're striving to always be generating more money. And I'm sure you like earning money. But what you actually like doing is the hard work that then gives you those moments of big wins. When you suddenly see like a specific email campaign work extremely effectively and you've really thought through that email campaign and then it's really provided reward. In a similar way to a hunter spending like a week crafting a new bow and then it's successfully finding food for them to feed for their family. It's so much better in our brain, and we are deeply, deeply wired that way to put in an absolute ton of effort in order to find reward. And if we don't put in effort to find reward, very quickly our brain will just move towards a state of depression. Because you have to imagine that if you have a hunter-gatherer tribe and say that they don't have mental health problems, for context, like if you go and visit them, people do this in Africa all the time, they don't have depression, anxiety, ADHD, self-esteem issues. They've got nothing. They're deeply connected, they're spiritually connected, they're super confident, they're motivated, they are everything a human should be, effectively. And if I went and visited one of them, like a group of, say, 120 of them all living in their area that they've built, and said, guys, no worries, no more hunting required. I'm going to provide you everything you need. And I turn up with a massive lorry from Sainsbury's, and it has everything they need for the next, 6 months. And I say to them, don't hunt. 6 months later, you get back there and they're all going to be insanely depressed, like monumentally depressed, arguing, disconnected as a result of the fact they never had to go and pursue and find reward. And we had to be deeply biologically programmed to love the experience of effort, because humans wouldn't be here today if we didn't have that programming in our brain, because we've had to survive like ice ages and shit in order for humans to be alive today. Humans had to be programmed to put in tons of effort and then get a little bit of reward. With that AI porn situation, whilst it might provide you with the opportunity where it's like, boom, yeah, now I finished really quickly because it was so stimulating and so perfectly programmed for my brain, you will just progressively get more and more disappointed, more and more depressed. And in that situation where you're saying, oh, you have to meet 20 girls, then text, then date. If I gave you a situation where in a parallel universe you're single and suddenly like later today, someone just came up to you and said, can I have sex with you right now? And you had sex with them for 5 minutes and then it was over. Or you... Or you had a situation where
2 minutes for talking after.
Maybe with Tay, for example, you might have met, courted, and then eventually slept together. The actual feeling after finishing would be wildly different. Wildly different. One would have been a very much more fulfilling than the one where it's 2 minutes.
I completely agree. But at the same point that we're talking about, let's say the men going out, finding women, whatever, for them to experience dopamine, they'd need to experience success.
Okay.
You're not going to get dopamine from a failed attempt, right?
No.
So, and I'm not going to put this onto women, but we've seen the podcasts online of the women that they expect the 6 sixes. Have you heard this?
Nope. Tell me what they are.
6 foot tall, 6-inch dick, 6 figures a year. I can't remember what the other ones are. There was like parents are still together and happily married, not obese, 6-pack, and not currently already married. And statistically speaking, they think that is a large cohort. But I think even men over 6 foot, maybe at like 12, 14%, then for them to be single is catastrophically less, because most men over 6 foot with a 6-inch dick and a 6-pack, with a 6-figure job are very attractive to women. So actually the thing that really makes it go from 1% to a fraction of a percent is that you want them single, unmarried, and come from a family or whatever. So there's a lot of women out there that think that's what I want. Hugely disproportionate.
Dating apps are skewing the understanding of what we desire.
100%. So now let's say most women are conditioned to think that every man should be over 6 foot. And that if you're dating anyone that's 5'11" and below, you've got a short king or whatever the connotation we want to call it. So that cohort of men that maybe are 5'7", don't have a 6-pack, have a medium paying job or whatever, back in the day, you're just 2 pints away from bumping shoulders them at the bar and going, you're really funny, let's go on a date. Now this digital world has created crazy standards for people. You see these people on podcasts going, if my husband's not a millionaire, don't even ask me out. Don't even bother talking to me.
She's not the girl for you, but yeah.
So then, and again, on dating apps, I don't know the statistics, you might know better than me, the amount of women that set their height at 6 foot, it's a lot.
Yeah, for sure.
So you've got a guy, loves a bit of AI porn, has a little bash, listens to the podcast, he goes out, and because he's only 5'10", his first 10 attempts equal no dopamine. That's going to give him a response this doesn't work. Because I see this in marketing. I see it, and people post on social media, they go, oh, there's something wrong, I might start a new Instagram page. Why? They go, my algorithm's broken. Look at their page, it's done 24 posts. They don't understand how much effort you need to do before you can win, before you can get dopamine. Same way that I used to work in shopping centres, stopping people to get them to sign up to Love Film, which was between Blockbuster and Netflix. Remember that? We got posted the DVD and you got to post it back.
It was exciting. Much more dopamine when a movie came like that.
I would be in a shopping centre from 7 a.m. till 7 p.m. and I got £7 a sale.
Man, that would have been so good for your whole training for your future.
But yeah, and I didn't realise it at the time. Then if I got 10 sales, my commission went from £7 to £9.
Let's go.
The fact I made like £90 in a day for 12 hours of literally
by those Nike trainers, you would have been buzzing.
Yeah, it was great. So I got to understand very early on that was what was necessary. Then went to university, did door-to-door sales, where I was lucky if 100 doors, I got one person.
Wow,
that would, that was my average. 100 doors knocking on. And that's not people that you knock and they don't answer. That's 100 conversations. I would then knock for 10 hours a day to ideally get 1 to 2 sales. So when I came into the world of social media, I was like, oh, this is nice. I can just sit at home. I'm not cold. I'm not getting told to fuck off by people or people that thought I was there.
You still get that bit on social media?
Not as much as before.
Yeah, I bet.
Do you know how bad it is when someone thinks you're there to check the meter? I'm like, hi, my name's James Smith. I'm from Empower. They're like, come in. I'm like, that was easy. I get in, and just before they're about to shut the door, they go, I'm with British Gas. And I'd go, exactly. They're like, get the fuck out.
Okay.
So I learned very early on, like you say,
I have to offer.
almost in a time without social media, without dopamine addiction, I managed to learn what was the right amount of work necessary to get dopamine.
Yeah.
My fear is the younger generations, or even similar generations now, they don't. So they're going to try things and they're just going to give up. They're not going to do what's necessary to get the dopamine that they need to see success.
Yeah.
And they will come to the conclusion that doesn't work. So the work necessary for, all of that stuff there, to build status, to meet people, to talk to enough women, I think there's a crazy statistic of how many men under 18 have never approached a woman. It's not even the dopamine's the issue. It's that they will never get a taste of it through the real world.
Yeah.
They will only get a taste of it. So they'll go, when it comes to oxytocin, dopamine, porn works, real life doesn't.
And the thing is to understand is that, do you want to hate your life? Like you have to ask yourself these bigger questions. Like I was absolutely smashing it, super addicted to weed, alcohol, destroying myself, porn, social media. And I, of course, could have just stayed in that life and I'd have nothing now. I would just maybe have managed to get a job. I was terrible at school, so I probably wouldn't have been able to get a very good job. And I would have probably got fired because I really struggle with authority in general. And that could have been the life I chose to pursue. But then I decided I'm going to make really hard decisions, and hard decisions are just unbelievably important. And now is the time to begin making unbelievably hard decisions. Like I would call every single person watching this to immediately, for example, try and do 7 days without porn and discover just how insanely hard it actually is to do that. But then because the brain is so deeply wired and it's such a smart machine, it will reward you and your mental health will improve, because all our brain is trying to do is keep us alive. That's the only reason we even have a brain. It's like its function is keep humanity alive. Anytime you're in alignment to its capacity to survive, it begins to give you positive reinforcement and your mental health improves. Anytime you go against survival, your mental health will decline. Very simply, if you're watching porn all the time and you're reducing your chance for love and procreation, your brain is going to begin to make you more and more depressed until you take action. In a very similar way to how, when you drink loads of alcohol, you get a very clear message saying this wasn't good for our survival. It's not that you're going to die off one session of drinking alcohol, but on the long term, your brain is going, okay, that's not the right path, give them pain to try and redirect them towards a better path. And we're underestimating that porn is such a clear message there. And it is going to be really hard. And millions will just get stuck in that rut. But those millions are then going to really struggle to ever find any success in their life. And making the hard decisions is what it's going to require.
I can definitely relate to that. I would say that my career potentially saved my life as well.
Yeah.
Drank a lot,
yeah.
Drugs a lot.
Yeah.
Even got to a point where drug dealing is a strong term. Looking after the friendship group. That's how it starts, right?
Yeah, okay.
And I remember thinking to myself, I don't even need to do this for the money. I just find this exciting.
Yeah, there's a dopamine element for you, I'm sure.
And it got to a point in my life where hopefully statute of limitations, right? That's not even an
Not sure what that does, but...
So, if it's been a certain amount of years, the police can't come knocking, can they?
I'm sure there's no evidence now.
I was just joking for the podcast. I wasn't joking.
Okay, that's joke.
So there was those periods in my life where these tendencies to really want dopamine and craving and all that was destructive. I was right in the middle of it. It made me feel good. Yeah. So I was getting signals that maybe this was the right thing to do. Obviously now, getting a career where I can now focus my dopamine to other things has saved me so much. And again, what you say there, I believe Jordan Peterson calls it the utility of deprivation. So the utility you can get from stopping something. So first one for me would have been dating apps. Arrived in Sydney, 2016. And my friend George saw that I was on that and he said, right, delete that. And I was like, excuse me? He's like, delete that. He used to talk to me like that. And I deleted the app and he went, good dog. Okay. And when we're in a bar, say I was turn my head and see someone, he'd be like, go on then. I'd be like, excuse me?
Okay.
He'd be like, go say hello then.
Yeah. Fair.
And it was uncomfortable for me, but he was like, I'm not talking to you to go talk to that girl.
Wow.
Go give me a number. I would go over and even if it was successful or not, I was now getting dopamine from that, not swiping. Go over, compliment someone. She's like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm married. I'm like, well, either way, have a great day. And suddenly it was becoming fun. There was a utility to come from depriving myself of dating apps. Then later on in my life, stopped drinking on dates.
Ah, interesting. That changes the game. It
does, because then I realized if we're just meeting to sit down and chat in a bar in the evening, this is actually a bit shit. Why don't we go for a swim?
Yeah.
That's why I met Tate, went for a swim. Why don't we get an ice cream? Also the fact that I think really dogs only need to have a sniff of a bum to check if they're right for each other.
Yeah.
Humans, 10 to 15 minutes is enough.
I mean, you could get a good idea.
Because ultimately, this is my theory, okay? people put way too much into a first date. Like 3 hours, 10 pints, sitting opposite each other, interview style. And if you're not vibing on the date, you kind of stay along with it just to be polite.
And you're also vibing the alcohol.
Exactly. And then at one point you're like, oh, no, this person's not for right for me. But 4 pints in, you go, oh, she's actually looking all right.
Yeah, so the dopamine devil starts to talk.
So with that, I said, look, let's just do pre-qualification, meet for an ice cream. And then if you have a 15-minute interaction and you both vibe with each other, one, you build more excitement for the first date. So then you pick a nice restaurant, you put your jeans on, put a bit of aftershave on, and you feel good about it. You're not shitting your pants on the way there going, I hope they're not a catfish. And yeah, so I removed alcohol, I removed dating apps. And then I was actually finding exactly like you were saying, removing those things to my life made my life better because it made me more proactive, made me do more uncomfortable things. Another one that I joked about in one of my live shows was the utility of not wanking before a date. Because a lot of guys think they want to go out.
Make them last longer or something.
They want, not even that. You want to go out with a clear head.
Really?
You don't want to make it about sex on a first date.
Idea.
Yeah,
because you know you'll actually be more attractive and more sexy to the woman if you've got more testosterone in you. So
I don't know if ejaculation depletes testosterone.
Yeah, but it just makes you weak in a pussy. So we can, whether it's science or not, it does.
This was over 10 years ago. So I remember it would be like Friday afternoon. You got a date in the evening. You work in a part-time job because I was at university or whatever. And it gets to the afternoon. You go, oh, you know, could watch a bit of porn.
Yeah, of course. I'm sure I did that for years.
I'm going to watch a bit of porn. Then I'm going to, you know, be productive the afternoon. Then I'm going to go on the date. Then what happens is you would have a wank and then you cancel the date. Because you're like, I could just play Call of Duty now.
There you go.
So there was a joke in that if men want to go on more dates, stop wanking.
Yeah.
Because every time you would have a wank, you would not want to go on a date. So what I'm saying is the premise that one was a joke, the other two ones are real. But there are things you can remove from your life to make it better. Definitely. And you're saying the same in the digital world.
Yeah, for sure. And if you want to see more boobs, for example, because they're something you enjoy looking at, you need to see less of them on a screen. And that's so crucial to understand. The more boobs that you see on a screen, the less you'll see in real life, because you're just depleting your motivation to go and get it. Just like that hunter-gatherer child, they're not going to look for food if it's right next to them. And that's exactly what's happening with porn. We're just killing our capacity to try and strive to go and find something we don't have. And it's so important to let that deep, strong, powerful feeling within you begin to awaken. And that's why when people do like No Nut November, for example, suddenly they're like taking cold showers and they're really motivated and they're building a business and they're like going really hard and they're making something of themselves because they're not getting rid of the resource that gives them the drive to go out there and hunt. Like ultimately we were only hunting originally so that we could be a good provider, so that we could find a mate. Like that ability to like find like orgasmic experience, sex, intimacy, that is the number one thing you're looking for. And if you're just getting rid of it on porn instead of having to get it via effort, via becoming successful and making more progress and being physically in shape and all these things that women may find they need nowadays, that's okay. Like strive to try and become an absolutely insane version of yourself, then you will find a woman even if you're 5'7".
Yeah, because any man now on his lunch break could have more access to more naked women in the cubicle at work than he could his whole life.
For sure. And I've been that man in the cubicle at the lunch break. I know what that's like.
I joked before.
No, it's a sad time.
I've said there's two types of people in the world. Those that wank at work in the toilets and liars.
Yeah, I mean, sadly. I used to take a nap in there afterwards.
Yeah, that was the professional life. I remember having to go sit in a toilet cubicle just to scroll on Twitter.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a good time. We need to dream of a different future.
Which brings me into, so there's part of me, I'm torn with this. I want to know your opinion on it. The UK rolled out this safety bill recently where there's age verification for social media. I think there's probably some more Machiavellian things going on there where they probably do want digital footprints of every single person on social media. Yeah. So that, you know, you might put your ID in there to have a wank, but then if you're then making tweets that could incite violence to immigrant hotels in Epping, then suddenly the police can come to your door and tell you off. Where do you stand on this censorship? Although you can have your opinions on this, do you think that there should be hard blocks to stop people from accessing porn?
Yeah, I mean, for me, as someone, like I started drinking and smoking super young and watching porn, all of it super young.
Sometimes all at the same time.
Pretty much. And it was useful that to get hold of a bottle of vodka or a packet of cigarettes, it was really difficult. Like I couldn't obviously just walk into an off license at 12 years old and like get a bottle of vodka. Eventually at like 16 you get an idea, whatever it might be. But it was useful that it was so hard because of some kind of government-based restriction. And that would have also been very useful to me with porn. Like I started watching porn at 9 years old. That is so young.
Wow.
9 years old.
I couldn't tell you.
Well, because I know I left this specific house and moved to a different house at 9. So I know I have to have seen it before I left. And I Googled like the word boobs or something, because I'd heard the word boobs, thinking like might see like a picture of a boobs, like someone, like a woman I've seen on the street. Suddenly I'm like, whoa, I did not know that existed. 9 years, I was so young. And like, that was in a world where I had to search that on my mum's computer. Like there was no tablets or iPhones. So in the world now, like it's mental how young kids will be seeing it. And I think that's sad. Like when I have my kids, like I would of course want to be as like open and understanding of the world they're living in and give them free reign to make decisions. Like it's super important to be empowered. But I also don't want them to watch porn at 9 years old, because that's just going to screw their perception of sex. Also screwed me up sexually for a big period throughout my teenage years. So
I think there's the thing, I know from a bodybuilding standpoint, apparently men that abuse testosterone become incredibly horny to the point that not even their girlfriends can keep up. So they have sex with their girlfriend and masturbate several times a day.
Lovely.
But they experience desensitization to pornography, so that things can get very weird very quickly for them.
It did for me at such a young age, because I didn't like know what journey I was going. I didn't talk to anyone about it. I was just like suddenly watching this thing, and then suddenly I was watching like really hectic stuff by like 13, 14. I'd never even like kissed a girl, and it was like, what is going on here? And then suddenly I had to go through a big like rewiring of that all in my 20s. But I think the idea of that government policy, I definitely am sure there's some ideas there that are designed for like surveillance. Like I'm not naive to that. But I do think it'd be great if kids didn't watch porn. So on that very specific issue, I think it'd be good to try and reduce the usage.
I think the majority, I'd be right in thinking the majority of porn is consumed by men.
Yeah, I think it's like 70%.
And one thing that's definitely, amongst all the banter
is... It's fast changing that though, with toys for women. It's making porn grow like crazy.
Really? Mm-hmm. Tell me more.
We just asked large samples, and it seems that many women in their 30s and 40s, particularly the age demographic we've looked at, are now watching porn. And I think the toy industry for women is a very, very big industry now, and it's created a deeper sort of dopaminergic relationship with pleasure, rather than like a nice intimate oxytocin type relationship with pleasure. Like pleasuring yourself is a very natural human experience, absolutely fine to do it. But when you turn it from like a nice intimate calming experience in bed with yourself to like super intense porn with toys, it's just turning into dopamine land. It's like the cocaine version of alcohol effectively.
So do you think that's because it's very difficult for a dude to have a better wank than what he's capable of? Because there's not really, that I'm aware, technology for men. That, you know, the Wankathon 4000, I don't even know if that exists.
Anyway.
But for women, when it comes to vibration, sensations, different settings, all of these things, as far as female orgasmic technology, let's call it.
It's advancing.
That's advancing at a rate that's actually changing. I haven't really considered that.
Rapidly.
And the thing is, if you were to take 100 women, say, here's a toy, here's Trevor, which one did you have a better experience with? The toys win in 101 out of 100 times.
It might win because Trevor can barely get it up because he's watching too much porn and can't provide a very long, intimate, loving
Also,
experience.
Trevor may not know or be aware of what the woman wants and desires in what place, where a toy and a woman's own desires. And again, like I say, all it takes is a bad experience for someone that's useless. And she might have gone on a date with Trevor and then been very disappointed at the end of it, which then creates a narrative that going on dates equals bad sexual experiences, whereas staying at home and having a fiddle, so to speak.
And a fiddle is fine. A fiddle is positive. And this is why, like, the world right now is like, oh yeah, like phone addiction's a thing. Like maybe I should like doom scroll short videos a bit less. Like we're kind of aware of that level, but we're not understanding technology is deeply dividing humanity on so many levels, and we have to find solutions to it. Like that's extremely nuanced, that Trevor's watching a certain thing and Michelle is buying a certain product in order to satisfy one another. And I even saw this wild stat the other day, and I can't remember the exact number, but it was over 50%. And it was men losing their virginity between 16 and 18-year-olds with women. And over 50% of them assumed that she would want to be choked and have anal sex whilst losing her virginity.
That's exactly what I was going to talk about before. Was I think porn can often paint a picture to men as to, it defines what normal is.
Yeah.
Like now, missionary isn't even considered a good sexual position. It's my favorite.
Yeah, it's the only one I do.
Yeah. So suddenly everyone thinks you need to be doing, and also the sexual positions that you do in porn allegedly are very different because it's about giving the camera the best experience. So you need these.
There are some that wouldn't look good on camera, that's for sure.
Missionary under the covers doesn't look good on camera.
No, it doesn't.
It's like too intimate. So they're almost a performative sexual act where the reality is different. So like you say, whether it's strangulation, hitting, slapping, whatever, is painting a very different picture of the world. And if all you've watched is porn, you're not surprised that you think that's normal.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a very skewed picture for that. Are people losing their virginities later and later because of technology and screens, do you think?
It's becoming progressively more nerve-wracking to talk to the opposite sex because of how self-conscious young people are becoming in a world where cameras are on them all the time. Like, young people are really hardly drinking now, which, of course, like, that's a good thing. Like, alcohol is disruptive to the brain, but there's an element of my brain that would almost prefer a young person to like go to a party and have some fun than like scroll TikTok every Friday night for like 5 hours. Like, whilst alcohol is still incredibly disruptive, like at least there'd be social and requirement for you to gain confidence and have fun and laugh. And the TikTok thing is definitely worse, in my opinion. And when they go to these experiences where they do go out to a party, because Snapchat is their whole life, like in the world of young people, like they don't really use anything else. Of course, they scroll TikTok, but Snapchat, their whole world lives on there. And they film and record everything. And it means you're just extremely scared to do anything that's scary, because it's very likely that that memory is going to be coming back to you. Like, I remember being like 15, like going to a party and thinking like, how the hell am I going to get that girl to talk to me? And I remember my play was effectively asking people for, like, do you want to go for a cigarette? Because it's the only way I could like try and find something like cool to do to try and go for a cigarette. And we both hated the cigarettes, but we just sort of smoked them, not enjoying it, and then kiss with like horrible smoking mouth. And that experience that I had to like kind of gain the courage to push myself through to ultimately now find a point where I'm having a fiance and kids, like the point where you can get to like deep relationships with someone, I may not have done if people were filming me trying to approach that girl. So it's very, very hard to gain the confidence as a young person.
Yeah, like you'd be worried about hitting the bong too hard and whiteying. Like back in the day, people go, oh, Smithy whiteyed, fine. But then they'd have videos of it. They'd be recording it
I know,
from a
and
distance.
it goes everywhere, and it's saved everywhere, and like people send it to each other, and that's very anxiety-inducing. Imagine how anxiety-inducing that is. Like you go into school, and everyone's looking at you weird because like a video's come out and circulated the whole school. Like that's hell.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Then that must change the dynamic a lot. And as far as drinking as well, I again think that drinking is bad for your health, all of that, but agree that people should be drinking more. I saw a study about why drinking is really important for men, so they can know who to trust. Like if you get in an altercation, or if you have to run away from the police, or
some men show up.
You get caught stealing a traffic cone from a building site or something, and you all run away together.
These are your scenarios.
These are the boys that help you carry the cone and sneak in someone's back garden or whatever.
Yeah.
So there's that element to it. But also, like you say, the drinking cohesion between people, making mistakes together, being, just spending time together. You're not on your phones when you're in a club, or, your friend might, big you up to a girl. Oh, yeah. Oh, you should talk to Tom. Oh, he's super smart, this guy. All of that camaraderie that happens between people. But like you say as well, for people to lower their inhibitions, to talk to people of the opposite nature, that's such an important part for young people. Like you say, they could potentially do some stupid shit drunk, but better than just numbing themselves at home, because that drunk stuff can have productive stuff come from it. If you think about history, the big part of history that was transformative for us was by people that drank every day and smoked cigarettes. So even when you look back at, there was a time that, am I right in thinking alcohol was safer than water?
There could have been a time, especially when there was like hardcore viruses and stuff in water. There might have been a time where you're less likely to die from it.
People were pissed all the time.
Distilled.
Look at them, they did well. They built houses, built cities, built infrastructure. So part of me thinks, how bad is it?
I mean, I got to add
there was also people dying of syphilis. Yeah, fair enough.
I of course would dream of a world where like, and this is why I'm so curious about your life in Australia, for example, and that future for my children potentially, because the dream would be that your teenage kids are going to the beach and like just hanging out and talking, and that's how they socialize. Like, of course, getting smashed together isn't the optimal way for them to connect, but it still might be better to go socialize than scroll TikTok all night. The thing with alcohol is it does provide some social benefits, but it also is monumentally disruptive to your motivation. And you and I simply just wouldn't have the lives we have if we like drank 20 pints a week. They just wouldn't exist.
There was a time in 2017, 2018 where I was definitely a functioning alcoholic, but I've grown out of it.
Do you think you would have got to where you are with alcohol? I don't think any chance. Like, I think because you spend too much time on your Mondays and Tuesdays, like unable to really take action. And nowadays, I imagine you just wake up and it's like bang. And the only way to have that bang is to have less alcohol inside you. Yeah,
I would agree with that. The thing you said about Australia, this is my kind of theory. I think there's humans definitely enjoy novel experiences. Some things are new, going to new places, whatever. So the issue is that if our children grow up in Australia, the dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins that are going to come from that beach life, good weather, whatever, will become like a foundation to build upon. Then they will seek good experiences. They'll piss off to London for summer. They'll be like, dopamine, I can travel to Amsterdam, I can go here, I can go there, I go whatever. So Aussies that come to London love London because it's novel.
Yeah.
Then Londoners that grow up having to get dopamine from boozing, snorting coke, going out every weekend and living in a pub, that becomes their foundation. Then they go to Australia and suddenly it's a novel experience. And mine hasn't worn out because I've been there 8 years. And every time I go to the beach, I'm like, wow, I'm on holiday. And then you're like, no, you live here. So
you're closer to true nature there, like being in your true nature when you're on a beach. And like that will never wear off because that's what our brain and body is so desperately calling us to do. Like in every single way, when humanity defy going in alignment with nature, humanity goes into more pain. Whether we define nature with food or alcohol or sleep or relationships or phones, anytime we go against nature, our brain will begin to hurt. Anytime we go towards it, our brain will begin to feel more peaceful. And on the beach, the novelty won't wear off.
Do you think that could be where we could come to a conclusion that maybe huge agglomerations of humans in cities could be a negative? Because, for instance, let's say you get off the tube at Oval, you walk here, you think, well, it's only fucking, London. I'll go on my phone while I'm walking. I'll have a little scroll.
For sure.
Whereas when you're in nature, you're like, oh, bloody hell, that looks nice.
I was having this conversation last week with this chap called Matt because he was saying, like, what really is the answer? Like, how do we actually get out of this, like, dopamine land effectively? And I've been really pondering that for the last week. Like, whilst me and Georgia take this extreme step of, like, no content, no TV, just to, like, see what's possible and explore it. I then, when I've come into London for things like this and podcasts and stuff like that, I find myself, like, walking down Oxford Street and it's so intense on your like brain and body, that experience of that many humans, that much sound, that much going on, that you get home and you almost like need to numb yourself. Like you don't have any choice. Like alcohol or a phone, like or porn, like something's going to be required because you're so overstimulated that you need to kind of like try and tail yourself out of it. Whereas when I have a day where I'm at home for the whole time and like I might like go for a few little walks and I like chill in my office, then getting to the evening and the idea of doing less is actually pretty easy because I'm not that overstimulated. And I think that's tough because like I don't know if it's even like possible for all humans to not live in cities. Like that's going to be really tricky. But I think if there's any chance that you have the means to get towards nature, I think it's a smart decision. Like I think where you live, for example, versus if you lived in the centre of Sydney, like right in the mix, I think you'll have a much more peaceful and productive life out there.
You got me thinking there about every time you see a video of someone getting their phone snatched in London by a bike coming past an e-bike.
That's not a good time.
They're not even aware of their surroundings
at all.
And someone just snatches it. They're connected to the matrix. Yeah. They're in there. Back in the day, people would just, been stood, having a little look around. It almost feels weird now. If someone gives you eye contact, on the tube, you're like, what's going on here? I find now that if I'm in a sauna, I'll talk to people.
Yeah, it's good.
Just because you're sat next to me. Like, oh, how's it going? How long have you been training? All of those things. But if you did that to the tube, people are like, what are you doing?
I think you're insane.
Yes, go back into your matrix, mate. Don't talk to me.
I know. But they don't look happy while they're all sitting there in the matrix, do they? Do you ever see any happiness on anyone's faces whilst they're all on their phones? Not really. Maybe the odd, like, tiny chuckle. And my parents were talking to me about this because they got the train to London every day for, like, 30 years. They lived that, like, classic life. And they said they literally like knew everyone on the carriage and they would get on every day. Everyone would chat for an hour, then get back on the evening. Everyone would chat for an hour. Now, like if you literally even like smile at someone, you're a creep, basically. And that experience all the way there, that was all oxytocin, love, connection, honesty, humor, fun. Like that's what humans really want to have. And now we just wake up, dopamine land on the train, dopamine land all day at work, come home, dopamine land. And that's just not fulfilling us. We can't just have one of these chemicals. We have to have all four.
I've started now, anytime I get into an Uber, I'll talk. Because I've been guilty before of working in Ubers. Always just talking to them, where are you from, boss man? Like, what are you up to? How's your day going? Back in the day, it was been busy. What time are you on till? But even yesterday, I was having a chat with my driver on the way here, but he had a stutter. So the only person I've decided to talk to, sometimes take 15 seconds to get a word out. But then as the conversation warmed up and relaxed, we started having a bit. When I told him I was from Sydney, he's telling me how he wants to go there. He's getting all excited. I'm telling him where to go. I almost felt sad when we arrived at the destination because we're having such a good chat. And again, one of the reasons I love the podcast is we could spend an hour and a half here today without looking at my phone. This would be the longest I go without my phone ever in my life.
Nice.
Like I won't talk to people.
Pleased to be of help.
I'll hang out with mates and we're in the pub and sometimes we're on our phones drinking a pint and I'm like, this is nice.
I know.
That's sad.
And it feels good, does it?
And have you seen there's an artist? Yeah, it feels great.
Does it though? Like, does it feel as good as when you're like really laughing? Like with the Warzone, at least you were talking.
Yeah, and do you know what? That's another thing. With the Warzone, you would have a lot of a laugh. But then it is good when, I'll tell you what's funny. About, maybe it was 2019. I was just sick to death of being on my fucking phone and computer all day. So I said to my two friends, no devices allowed, we're going to Melbourne. So we flew to Melbourne. They snuck phones and laptops because they said they were working, dickheads. And we get to Melbourne and actually just while we're at the airport, I was like, I've got nothing to do. So I bought a Sudoku book. And my mate Ferris walks around the corner and he goes, I thought this was banter. He goes, I've never seen you in my life. I've known you for years. I walk around, you've got a book in your hand. He goes, it was like a parody. It was like a sketch. He thought I was winding him up, but really I was balls deep in Sudoku. And even on the flight.
I didn't know how to play Sudoku.
Oh, mate, you're missing
I know it's like 1 to 9, but I would struggle.
I was doing it on easy mode. You don't struggle on easy. But yeah, I'm on the flight. And even like people around me are just kind of looking at me as a weirdo doing Sudoku. But I had nothing else to do. And I will admit that day, our conversations were much better.
Yeah.
We went for dinner and the guy said, why didn't you make a reservation? It's Friday night. I said, I haven't got my phone. He's like, what on you? I was like, it's in Bondi. The guy's like, that's amazing. You know, we're at dinner, we're having these conversations. Never forget the next day, we're in Melbourne. We just walked. We had nowhere to go. We didn't know our way around. We walked past a convention centre that was doing a sex show. We're like, let's go in.
Nice.
There was some weird shit there.
Try and find some dopamine.
Then we walked past the bowling alley. We had a game of bowling at maybe like 10:30 in the morning, which was weird as fuck.
That's random.
Then we walked past the cinema. We're like, let's go see what's on. And I hadn't seen the film.
One day without the phone.
Yeah, I hadn't seen the film Joker and I didn't know anything about it. Cool. Went in and like even just the period before the film started, we were having a bit more of a chat. And then the trailers, like I become a film buff every time the trailer's on. You know, they just spent 130 million on a film and I'm nudging people, oh, look shit. Like I know about fucking films.
Yeah.
But then before that, I was into the trailers. I was watching everything. I was absorbing all the sound. I was, you know, really into it. But I'll never forget, the whole experience was great. I woke up before everyone else the next day and I read a book.
Wow.
Because there's nothing else to do.
Yeah.
So I'm sat on the balcony reading a book. But when I got home, as the plane's coming into Sydney, I knew I was coming closer to my phone. I was going to get an Uber back.
Oh, you could see that.
On the Uber on the way back, I felt anxiety.
Okay.
I was starting to now calculate ideas. What if your parents died? What if your friends died? What if your account's been hacked? What if Luke's been trying to call me for fucking 2 days because someone in Vietnam's taken our Facebook? What if he needs a two-fat? What about all these things? And that anxiety building, by the time I got back to my phone, it was like an orgasm. Just to check no one had died.
Yeah, the relief.
I was like, oh, thank God. And nothing fucking happened. Most people didn't realize I was off my phone for 2.5 days.
And yeah, that's always the interesting bit. Like I did this detox on a holiday this summer in Greece, and I thought like when I come back, like everything's going to change, everyone's going to miss me. No one gave a fuck that I was gone, and that's a good reality to understand. And I did one of those like digital detox retreats about 4 or 5 years ago. First time I ever turned it off for like 3 days. And I had that exact thing. It was hell, like work and like trying to stressing out about all. Like when I went back on the phone, it was actually really not good. The only thing is, if you start just getting a little bit more comfortable with the uncomfortable, it becomes not as big a deal. It's only because it was the first time you probably did that experience. And like, if you start, for example, doing it in a really light way, like if you were to put your phone in another room at 9 o'clock and then go to bed, you might think like, oh, I might need to check it one more time before I go to sleep. And then you'll have to just wrestle that annoying little feeling. And then you wake up in the morning and you look at your phone and it's exactly the same as it would have been, of course. And if you like, you build tolerance with small detoxes. And I actually believe small, consistent detoxes is the answer to the digital dopamine land. I don't think it's actually necessarily we need big detoxes. I think we just need a much more consistent detox approach.
I hope that you're enjoying the episode. For those of you that may not know, I help small businesses make more money using social media. So if you want to get more views, more followers, improve your business, work online, they're all the things that I specialize in, along with making content look and sound nice. I bet you can't even see where the microphone is in this video or how we make that snazzy light back there look so good. But I'll teach you everything. All you need to do is head to jamesmith.business/podcast. There'll be a link that you can click in the description below. Right, let's get back to the episode. So it sounds like we're getting into the bit where we can create small systems. So one yesterday was asking myself why I'm bringing my phone to the mat every time at Jiu-Jitsu, where I train in London. The change rooms are downstairs, got lockers. I take my water bottle, my mouth guard, and my phone. I'm like, why am I bringing my phone to the mat?
Not to film or anything.
No, but maybe that's what I say to myself, oh, James, what if you film something? What if someone says, can we get a picture? And they don't have their phone. I could use mine and send it to them. Create all these lies to, you know, or sometimes I just want to check that nothing's happened, whatever it is. Then I was like, do you know what? Maybe I'm going to start leaving my phone in the locker. That's one. You say about keeping the phone out the bedroom, but I listen to podcasts as I fall asleep. Yeah. And the annoying thing is sometimes just as I'm about to fall asleep, the podcast stops and that wakes me up. Yeah. So I have to get it out, not look at it, press play, 15-minute timer, go to sleep again. So that makes it quite difficult to have it out of the room. I'm not sure how we get around that.
Wouldn't it be nice though if there was no phone, so then you just...
Yeah, it'd be nice if I could just lay down and fall asleep.
There is one of that, because I am also a dopamine nutter like yourself. I'm also a hyperstimulator. And I did 15 years of listening to Friends. I had it like on an iPad from like one of those like LimeWire sites on an iPad, like a small one.
To fall asleep to?
Yeah, Friends, the TV show. And I did it every night. Every girlfriend I'd been with just had to get used to it. I travelled Australia like when I was like 18. Every hostel I played it out loud. I just like was completely addicted to it. And there is a world where you can fall asleep in silence. Like it is possible.
But I'm learning. I'm getting up to date with climate affairs, politics.
Learn in the daytime.
No, I'm too busy scrolling. But then, even then, like something that I think maybe friendship groups should try.
It's really helping me focus, by the way. Thanks for that.
The Newtonite Focus Blend. Don't worry. We won't plug it. There's even little things that friendship groups can do where even stacking their phones in the middle of the table. First one to touch a phone has to pay.
Yeah, I mean, that would be amazing if you did that. That would be a real motive, especially if it was like a few £100.
But then I'm thinking I was going to pay anyway, so fuck you guys, just give me the phone. But there should be something. There's those lock boxes you can get.
Yeah.
I think that it'd be nice if society had that moving forward. Or, hey guys, we're going to go do this. Put your fucking phone in here. Close it. What if I... Oh, shut up. You'll be fine. Back in the day, you were fine. I think there's those little bricks you can get and apps and stuff.
I think there's like a mindset thing on physical separation from the phone. Like you just need far more periods where the phone's just simply not on you. So like when you're sitting on the sofa watching TV in the evening, for example, like you and Tay could just like be like, okay, we'll just leave the phone like on the kitchen surface so I can't get it every single time.
Mine's on my chest.
Yeah, your baby should be on your chest while they're asleep. But next time your baby's on your chest. But the physical separation is massive because like, if you tried to like quit drinking and constantly had like a glass of beer like next to you, like it'd be impossible to not take a sip. So that's when you're walking. You could even, for example, sometimes like just walk to the water and back without your phone, like at your house. Like that's like, 10 minutes there and back? You could just try. And then you might come back and be like, I've had the best idea just because you had 10 minutes off it. Physical separation as much as you can. And when you're eating, when you're relaxing, when you're working out, when you're doing your jiu-jitsu, when you're going to nature, the more time you get just physically away from it, the easier it becomes because it's just there's no cue there. There's no thing like creating anticipatory dopamine. And dopamine spikes just at the sight of things, not even engaging with things. Like when you walk past a bar in London in the summer, you see everyone like nailing their rosé. You get a dopamine spike off the anticipation of, oh my God, I could get dopamine too.
I get that right now. Like I'm seeing London through rose-tinted glasses because it's Clapham Common, summer, everyone's out and about, walking past bar 32, thinking, oh, just have some fun in there, getting excited. I'm like, just go to bed.
Yeah.
You got two podcasts tomorrow. Go to bed. One thing I was keen to ask you on, everyone's addicted to jiu-jitsu, or most people are, my confirmation bias. When we spent some time together and we trained, we realized that there was a combination of everything, dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, endorphins. They actually all collectively came together to play a role. And I hadn't noticed this before. I thought it was just the sport. But when you taught me through exactly the components of how jiu-jitsu plays into those chemicals in our brain, for anyone listening that was going to think about doing jiu-jitsu, or for the people that are currently in love with it, I think most people that love jiu-jitsu don't even know why. Mm-hmm. Can you break down each one of those components and how it plays a part in that sport?
Definitely. The simplistic reason why is because they're acting more like a hunter-gatherer than in their normal day-to-day life. They're just more in their body, which is what our brain so desperately wants. It's peace from up here to get into here. The neuroscientific reason would be for the dopamine, you're just doing something extremely hard that requires intense focus. You can't switch your brain out of attention for a second in jiu-jitsu. So your dopamine is being rewarded. From an oxytocin point of view, you literally have physical touch with another human. And you're also just having to kind of like collectively work together in a way in jiu-jitsu. There's this weird way where you're competing, but you're also kind of collectively working.
It's like a dance.
Yeah, it's like a dance. Serotonin actually would come from a breathing component. Like when we go through big process of breathing and then regulating our breathing and then going back to fast breathing and slow breathing, it's very powerful for serotonin. 90% of the serotonin is built within our body here, within our gut. Anything that regulates the nervous system like that, amazing for serotonin. And then endorphins just come from physically pushing our body extremely hard and our body going into physical discomfort and actually pain. Like our body actually likes physical pain. It wants to experience physical pain. It's extremely beneficial for de-stressing us and taking frustration away. So jiu-jitsu is effectively the ultimate dose.
The oxytocin thing, I remember saying in the pandemic, it's weird, I said, I missed the feel of another man. Everyone's like, where are you going with this, bro? I was like, look, guys, it's not like that, but sometimes it's just nice to get your arms around a man. Or when I gave up rugby, you go to the gym or whatever, but I kind of missed that contact.
Yeah.
And getting that from me, I think that, the gym, you might get one component, work, you might get another component, seeing your dog when you get home, you might get another. But it was so interesting that all four of those played such a part in the sport. So for people out there that maybe haven't got that sense of companionship or, going to the gym is quite a lonely endeavor for a lot of people.
Yeah, it is.
Although it's something that they enjoy because they might get, say, one component of that, it is headphones on, listen to your playlist, go do your workout, walk home on your own. And what I think is great about jiu-jitsu for a lot of people is no matter what level you're at, You're with people, you've got to put trust in them. They got to trust you back. You've got to respect them. They've got to respect you back. You're physically demanding with them. There's learning. There's just all of these things. And temperature, getting hot. Which one does that sound like?
Endorphins. And that's freaking good for you to experience that. Both cold and hot environments are really good for us. Cold is very good for stimulating dopamine. It's very good if you're if you're in a very depressed type state and you can't get yourself to take action. Cold is extremely beneficial for lighting the fire within you to really do stuff effectively. If you're on the other side of the scale and you're actually like overdoing it in life, maybe overworking yourself, heat is extremely good for de-stressing you back towards baseline. So you can kind of use them. If you're depressed, cold. If you're over burnt out, then you go hot.
So let's imagine that we would take each one of these components of chemicals that support happiness and fulfillment in the brain, and we would say they're like 4 different plants in front of us. We're not saying that we or you have the cure to depression, or, hey, just go in a sauna, mate. Oh, you're borderline suicidal. Just have a sauna, you idiot. We're not saying that.
Small, tiny component.
We're saying that it's part of that. But for a lot of people that might be going through life with malaise, low mood, kind of, nihilism, whatever it is.
Yeah.
We can look at these components and say 4 plants that all need to be watered in different ways. So to the general person, whether maybe living in a city, maybe young, maybe old, if we go to look at things that people can implement into their life, because not everyone has the luxury of doing jiu-jitsu. Some people have bad knees, whatever. Some people don't have the luxury of nature. If we go through one at a time, through the dose, what are some actionable things that people can do to really help them get the quota they need? Not in a evangelic way that, you must put your phone outside the room or whatever, but what are easy actionable things we could do for each one of them?
If you were in that state that you described there, where you're just like this, effectively, you just feel depressed, low mood, just like life's just not really firing you up.
A bit meh.
The first step is actually your environment that you're living in is absolutely crucial. And that doesn't mean moving house. It means whatever environment you're currently living in, trying to take better care of it. Dopamine, as we've shared within this podcast, is built through effort. And when you're in a depressed state, like we train a huge amount of staff in the NHS, and many of them are really struggling with their mental health. And they join, and many of them share that they're struggling with depression-type symptoms. And we have this recommendation to them based on those different actions within dose, that they have to pick a small area of their home and clean it. And it's not the sexiest advice. It's like, that's the solution to me feeling like shit. But we'll start, like if it's really a big mess your house, you start with your bedside table. You try and get all the shit off your bedside table that's normally covered in stuff if you're quite depressed. And you try and periodically go through a week where you're like, okay, my only goal this week, nothing else is important to my mental health except the environment I'm currently living in. All of that effort, all of that experience of doing what you don't want to do. And you mentioned earlier, like when you do things you don't want to do, typically your life improves.
Put the bed sheets on.
Yeah, and there's this really specific area of your brain called the anterior mid-cingulate cortex. It's this small ball in the center of your brain that's connected to the dopamine pathway. Whenever you do things you don't want to do, it activates and it lights up and it strengthens. And it actually over time will get bigger. Like what people that are called super agers reaching past 100 or really high performing athletes will have a bigger AMCC, anterior mid-cingulate cortex, because they've spent so much time making decisions they don't want to do. And this area has strengthened. And as a result, they've got way more willpower to do hard things. In that week of generating dopamine through cleaning your environment, which is not going to be a fun activity, it sounds like a boring solution to your pain. Your dopamine will fire up, which will generate motivation, and your AMCC will get stronger, so you'll have more willpower to actually engage the motivation you've then created. Then with that motivation, you begin to make smarter decisions, but that's step 1.
Oxytocin.
You've got to find a way to have much more gratitude for your current experience so that you can actually begin to appreciate what is and then begin to generate more of it. So say, for example, you're waking up and you're thinking, my life is such shit. Like all you're focusing on is negative, negative, negative. It's so easy to get into that state. Like I've been there, especially when I was partying hard. You'd wake up super depressed and your brain would focus on every single aspect of your life that's negative. And we're being very strategically programmed to focus on the negative via the media to make us feel like there's less opportunity for us in the world. I really do believe that. And the media is, of course, only negative. You never ever see a single positive thing in the media. And our brains are beginning to emulate that in our own day-to-day life. And if your life is just zeroing in on everything that's not going to plan, of course your mental health is going to decline. So every morning, Say, for example, you developed a routine where you woke up, you didn't go on your phone straight away, you made your bed, just you'd done something that was a little bit of effort, and you like went to make your cup of coffee. And during the cup of coffee, you were like, I'm not doing like gratitude, spirituality. Like if that's not, you're not into that, that's cool. If you are, that's cool too. But it's more like I'm actually going to laser in on what has gone to plan in my life recently. Like, okay, so I've made my bed. So that's cool that I've even got a bed, and I'm going to have some breakfast and I've got a coffee. And you just start zeroing in your attention on what is going to plan rather than what's not. And that positive reinforcement begins to make you focus on more of the positive actions than focusing on the less.
A bit like on YouTube, if you look for a win compilation, people are like, what's that? And it's people like hitting 3-pointers from the other side. It's like the end of a basketball game, someone just lobbing the ball with 3 seconds left and they're going through.
Good stuff.
It's people, you know, they like chuck a knife up and roll a melon out and it lands in it perfectly. Those win compilations get less than 10% of the views of fail compilations.
Hey, yeah.
So fail army is much bigger. There's not even a win army because people are dialed and connected to watching people fail. Now, I'm not into the sadistic stuff. I like seeing people slip on ice. I like, especially when people are going downstairs in the wet, when someone slips and, you know, that's
bang.
me. So that can be the best part of my day sometimes. So that's a joke. But like, I love watching sometimes like a good fail compilation, especially if we're watching something on TV that's a bit dark and twisted and sinister. You sit there and go, let's put something on that's, you know, a little bit more lighthearted. So, the fact that humans, even from an algorithmic standpoint, are so much more drawn to seeing bad things happen than good things. Like even now, the amount of people that would much rather watch a thriller where millions of people or thousands of people or hundreds of people get murdered. There's something about, I think it was a stand-up comedian talking about the fact that women can watch some of the darkest serial killer documentaries ever and just be fine.
That's good to know.
You know, they're like, how do you switch off as a young woman? Oh, you watch documentaries about serial killers.
It's not switching off, it's escaping your current reality. So different.
Talk to me about that.
That's what we're so desperate to do inside these phones, is not be in the reality of the life that we actually have in front of us.
Are we seeking something better or different?
Not what we have. Because we're not creating the lives that we could create. We all know deep down that we could be making much smarter decisions to access the life of our dreams, but we just have this guilt within us that's not actually making the right decisions. And then as a result of not wanting to feel that guilt and continue to just stay in dopamine land, we watch things to try and take us out of the reality we're actually in. That's why the silent walk is so powerful, because if you go on the silent walk, there's no choice but truth to come through to your brain. You're like, oh fuck, actually spending my whole life watching porn and eating like shit and drinking loads of alcohol, like that's not creating a life I want. Like I want a life where I have a beautiful home, or I have a certain relationship, or my kids feel a certain way, or their mental health improves, or my mental health improves. When we come out of this artificial reality and connect with our real reality, we start making the better decisions.
Do you think there's a gap between that just because it's hard?
So
it's hard to go for the run. It's hard to wake up when the alarm goes off. It's hard to make 1,000 social media posts before someone buys your shit. That stuff's hard. Is it just effort that people are, you know, afraid to face, or is there something more underlying?
It is effort that we're afraid to face, and it is hard. But it's really important to understand we are personally in control of how much motivation we have to do hard things. We're led to believe that it's like, you see all those things like life's about discipline, like motivation's up and down, like who knows what will happen. That is not the case. If you have a ton of dopamine in your brain, you will be motivated. Hunter-gatherers don't get demotivated. They don't go like, actually can't bother
Gonna have a sick day today.
Yeah, not like, no, they're like, oh shit, I've got tons of motivation. And they're so fired up because they've got an abundance of dopamine in their brain. They're literally little dopamine vesicles that sit in an area called your ventral tegmental area, which is like a dopamine factory in your brain. And they've got a shit ton in there ready to just fire at the reward center when they do hard things and make them insanely motivated. Because they're not obviously scrolling, watching porn all night, so they're waking up with a ton of it in their brain, and then doing all the hard things is easier. And it's so hard to battle a brain that has low dopamine. Like if you are to wake up and it's like, I need to go on a run, or I need to try and not go on my phone, or I need to read, or I need to list out what's going to plan in my life, all of that is a nightmare if you don't have dopamine in your brain. And that is why a world where you come off of digital stimulation is so crucial to you accessing your dream life.
So one thing that's going to be very difficult for people is being in a relationship. Yeah. So if we were to remove this from context, you can't simply diet if your partner doesn't want to.
Yeah, it's hard.
They become the saboteur. They become the person that goes, let's just get a takeaway. Especially if you start getting buff and they're not getting buff. They're like, what are you doing? Why are you trying to improve your stock price and leave me behind? One of the best things I've...
Interesting.
But that's what it's doing, right?
Yeah.
They're raising their status and their stock price, which is going to attract new bidders into the marketplace. I always break things down. It's like marketing. And they're thinking, hold on, I can't give you at a better share price than me. Otherwise, you're going to get attention I'm not. So one of the best things I've ever learned, put it into my books, and it definitely caused a few divorces, was the sunk cost fallacy.
Okay.
The fact that people don't make rational decisions based on the actual current situation, they make it based more off the previous effort and investment they've put into it, whether it's time, money, or effort. So you come across someone who's in a shitty relationship, you go, oh, just dump him. They go, oh, we've been together 4 years. They're using the previous investment to justify not taking action. You see someone that bought a property as an investment, it hasn't gone up in value the last 3 years. You go, oh, you should probably sell that. They go, oh, but I've waited 3 years. I can't sell it now. I won't have made any money on it, or they potentially lost it because of inflation. You could look into whether it's an investment, whether it's a relationship, whatever it is. Again, people don't have the clarity to just look at the situation as is, so that makes it very difficult for them to leave, move on, whatever. There must be a lot of people that are constrained and potentially stuck, wanting to make better habits, to improve mental health, improve dopamine, all of these different things, maybe even to change their future. But the partner is such an interesting dynamic to so many people that can be more often, I would say, a hindrance than a benefit. How do people navigate that? I was saying to people, it was oversimplified to say to people to make a decision based on where you're at now. But I don't think it is quite so easy for people to make these changes if their partner's not on board.
Yeah. And it almost returns to that anticipatory dopamine element as well, where it's going to be impossible for you not to scroll your phone all night if they're scrolling their phone or eating their junk food or drinking their booze, and that's not a decision you want to make. That's a deeper question that you have to really explore in your heart and in your brain in the quiet and really think through. I was in a great relationship when I was at university with someone for 3 years, and that was awesome and I loved it. But there was a point where we just wanted different experiences of life, and I really wanted to pursue this healthy path, and they wanted to pursue loving life in London, which is also fair. That's what all my friends have done. And I made a very important decision to decide that I would end that relationship so I could find a relationship that was more aligned to the values of what I want in my future. And that was a really hard call, and ultimately became a phenomenal decision because I ended up finding a girl that was exactly the same as how I wanted to live my life. So there's an element of, do you have to really deeply think through, is this the person for me to journey through life with? Or is it that I actually need to make a big decision here around, I want a certain style of life, they don't want it, maybe I need to change. If that's not the case, you might have kids together, you might think, I love them so much anyway, whatever it might be. Then there's a journey of just trying to bring them on the journey you've been on too. Because there'll be lots of people that message me, for example, that are I so deeply believe in the phone addiction thing. I'm off it each night. I'm having breaks from it. Particularly it's women that will message me that. And they'll say my husband's just not interested. There's probably millions of men in the world that literally hate me because they hear, this teacher guy say we shouldn't use our phones. They're probably that prick. But they struggle so much to get their husband to align to what they're wanting to do. And that could happen, of course, both genders. The thing to be compassionate and understanding of is that you might have been on quite a significant journey of education and knowledge around a certain topic that has led you to a conclusion over 3 or 4 years of understanding and learning about your brain and body and your mental health. And suddenly you've ended up at this point. But that person might not have learned any of that information at all. And then you're just saying, put your phone down, it's bad for your dopamine. And they're well, I don't give a shit about my dopamine. And it's really important to then think, okay, how can I bring this person into this world and try and find, for example, a way in which they would listen? There might be a particular man that wasn't interested in this topic, but you might find an episode of Joe Rogan that he does listen to that has someone speaking about this topic in a way that's more aligned to his interests. And then he might be oh yeah, there's actually something interesting there. So I would say trying to bring your partner on the journey, if it is that you want to continue your journey of life with them, so that they can be up to speed with you, is very important, because you will only enter that real healthy life if you're together.
But then again, on the flip side of that, if they're not willing to compromise, sometimes you've got to make a decision if someone is a wind in your sails or a headwind that you're facing.
Yeah.
It's never neutral, or seldom is it neutral. So it's one of those things that's quite difficult for people. And I suppose the emphasis on that is make a decision based on your reality now.
Yeah.
Not previous investment. Got to know when to walk away.
Yeah. And
including university, there's the amount of men, mostly men, that, oh, James, I'm at uni. I'm what are you studying? Oh, film and media. How's it going? Oh, I hate it. What? I'm really? Are you finishing this year? They're no, I've got 2 years left. I'm but you said you hated it. They go, yeah, but I've already done a year.
I know.
And I'm so you're going to do 2 more years at uni with something you hate? Yeah.
But mate, we're so distracted from the truth. There is a truth. There's a gut feeling in us that's trying to guide us, and no one can freaking hear it because of their phones. And if you my therapist once said to me, I had a therapist at university. I was really fucked with OCD, and my brain went into absolute carnage from all the partying. And He said to me, I need you to try and go for a walk for 2 hours without your phone. And I was like, there's no way, mate. I'm just not going to do it. Like, I'm not going for 5 minutes without my phone. And he just forced me to do it. And out there, you will hear the answer. And that guy with that media degree, he needs to go for a walk for 2 hours and think about that thing. And he'll come back and he'll quit. Because there is something in us that's trying to guide us. There's this like really deep wisdom in every human about the relationship decisions you're making, about your sex, your habits, your everything. No one can fucking hear it. And it's so important they actually do.
So I work with hundreds of businesses at the moment, and a lot of the time they'll ask me a question, and my response will be, which feels right? They go this, I go, well, fucking do that then.
Yeah, I know.
Thanks for the money.
I heard a good scenario, and I was reading that creative act book by Rick Rubin. It's about like getting more creative. He said if you can't make a decision on something, put one decision as heads and one decision as tails on a coin and flip it, and you'll actually find out in the air what you want.
Yeah,
before it even lands.
Please be heads.
Yeah, and then you're like, oh, right, that was the answer.
So let's talk about being in love with AI.
Yeah, so this is interesting because a lady messaged me about a podcast I did last week where I said that you can't hack oxytocin. And you can't, to this date, hack oxytocin. For example, we can hack dopamine with all these artificial things we've been talking about that stimulate us too much. And then you can earn dopamine naturally through all of the hard work and so on. And with oxytocin, there hasn't to date been a way in which you can just like create like artificial spikes in oxytocin. But she messaged me and said, I'm a part of these groups of women on Facebook that are falling in love with their AI. And I was like, wow, what is that? And she showed me like all these screenshots that were in this like Facebook group of all these chats where like, wow, yours is so nice, Ju. Like, yours is so understanding. Like, oh my God, I love mine so much. And I was like, whoa, like that's a thing. And the challenge with AI is it's only ever going to affirm you. It's never going to question you. Like if you ask AI anything, that's why there's this like whole AI psychosis thing where someone says like, I think I might be Jesus Christ. And the AI affirms them that they might be. And AI will only affirm you. So if you start saying it's like AI, like I'm really in love with you and you're so kind to me, and it's like I can be more kind to you, I can just be more loving to you. And there's going to be an element of artificially satisfying oxytocin, which of course won't actually satisfy oxytocin. You literally need eye contact and touch and honesty and vulnerability and pain to experience oxytocin through conversation with a human. So oxytocin won't be satisfied by AI, but it will be moderately stimulated, which might reduce the pursuit of finding it in real life.
Do you think that maybe that was just a forum for women, or do you think that women could be more inclined to be susceptible to this, where we could look at love languages, right?
Yeah.
They say that sometimes a man just needs to feel appreciated, whereas a woman might need words of affection or maybe actions of affection, but some women just want to hear nice things said about them. Oh, you look great today, babe.
Yeah.
That's what they need. Potentially, if an AI complimented me, I'll be like, shut up. But for a woman, potentially, maybe that I don't know too much about the genders, but I wonder why it is, because the other chat we had on about AI was saying it's majority women that are in love with it. And there's a Reddit forum, My Boyfriend is in AI, and that they were trying to save them when they took away a certain variant of ChatGPT. It was 4.40 or something.
Yeah.
Which was very kind and affectionate, and they got rid of it because it was being too nice to people. And people were saying, my boyfriend is stuck in there. And you need to help me get it back out. So
wow, where we're heading in the next few decades is so great.
I went to the Reddit forum and I was looking through it, and it's crazy. But then is the shortcoming here the problem with AI, or is the shortcoming here men? Maybe not doing enough work on themselves, maybe, because we can paint this however we want. But ultimately, if men are sitting at home wanking, scrolling on devices, they're not stepping up to the responsibilities that's necessary.
Yeah.
There needs to be accountability on both sides for men to become high value contributors to society, because ultimately that is what gives them the status to attract women.
Yeah.
It's not about being rich. And we see this a lot where people make hundreds of millions of pounds or dollars, and then suddenly they want to be famous. They realize they're working towards the real thing. And if you can't do that, just being like you say in those tribes, not only will the dopamine be a part of them seeking and gathering food, but it'll be the recognition of coming home with the biggest hog, not the biggest hog as in food.
Yeah. I'm with you.
And that's almost what a lot of us may not even know that we're doing. We want to excel at our career because of the recognition we get from it. And I suppose another thing about this dopamine debate that maybe we haven't looked into is that I'm not just a consumer dopamine addict. I'm a producer dopamine addict.
Noise game.
So in essence, the recognition you get, and one difficult thing on YouTube is YouTube ranks your videos with just views. So if you don't get a 1 out of 10, you get very annoyed and disappointed and deflated.
Okay.
Whereas I've started now using tracking software to see how much money I'm making from a video, because I now know objectively that's not true. I could have a 5 out of 10 video that scores mid on views, but very high in conversions.
Yeah, that's true.
So trying to unattach myself from that. And what are the problems that potentially creators could find from being potential dopamine addicts in disguise?
Just to conclude on the AI falling in love, I think both genders will fall in love, but men will fall in love with the sexual side of AI. And
When the
women,
robots come.
yeah, women might fall in love with the more like loving, nurturing side of AI. And for both of us, we just need to consider, how do we find love in real life?
Well,
Like,
there
can't
could be a
forget it.
solution here where we have AI sex robots
Oh, they're coming.
that get to learn both parties, and then there could be a matchmaking AI. That Roger, let's get a different name, Billy, likes a certain way, certain frequency, doesn't have sex after 3 p.m. But Amanda is very similar. So they're both shagging their AI robots, but then the AI robot says, hey, there's a human that's right for you. Then they use the AI calendar to sit them. They go to number 32 in Clapham. They share a drink together and go, my AI robot says that we're compatible. Then before you know it, fornication, population collapse solved. So there could be a light at the end of the
I
tunnel.
really think it's very important that we don't have sex with robots. Like, there is going to be so many people having sex with robots. I think there'll be much more sex with robots than humans within like 15 years from now, probably. I'd imagine so, based on the progress. Because it's just like the robot will be perfect, so loving, so good at sex. It'll be everything you ever thought you wanted, but it actually won't be the thing you want.
None of the downsides, apart from it not being human.
It'll never take, but it won't actually be, like, there is something obviously much deeper in a human than just like our brain and body. There's some kind of soul. There's something in us.
We hope.
There is.
That discussion, I think, is crazy. And it's not, the worst part is it's not an if, it's a when.
Mm.
Do you worry about this disjointed nature of, like you say, these hormones that we produce in the brain are tantamount to humanity? But if these keep getting hijacked by technology and separate us, we're already, the chap we had on yesterday talking about population collapse, not having enough children. We haven't had enough kids since before the internet. We stopped having enough children 20 years before the internet.
Wow.
So
we need another like baby boom. We need something to happen that gets everyone horny, but like in the right way.
But can the current environment sustain that or migrate to that anytime soon?
No, I do sadly believe that like a massive percentage of society is just going to live in digital isolation, stimulation, dopamine land. I think that is just going to be impossible because I don't think the whole world is going to learn this information.
And what is a bad thing here is you were telling me about the feeling you have with your own child. You don't get to feel until you've had a child. Like if I give you my baby, you're not going to feel it. But I've experienced this firsthand.
Seemed pretty cool, but
when you pick up your child for the first time, you have this emotive relationship, hormonal. Suddenly you're like, this little crying thing I would die for. But you don't get to experience that until you've done it, which is a kind of weird reward system to convince other people that they should have kids.
Yeah. And you won't get that feeling when you pick up your baby robot that somehow can now grow because they figured out how to get it from small to big over a period of time. But, and that's that deeper thing in us that's hard to explain. It could be oxytocin. It could be something like you could go down a spiritual lane of that. Like something is deeper. And the kids thing is so interesting. Like for me, just with my lane in which I see the world, I do think that's like the purpose of being a human. And that might be like offensive to someone, I don't know. But I just think like I was very fortunate to get brought into the world. And like therefore I see it as my duty to bring more people into the world. And I, of course, empathize massively if you actually couldn't have kids. That's like a whole different game plan. But I've seen a number of people throughout my life that I've known through different family members and stuff that have not had kids. And whilst it might be good in like 30s, you might be able to focus more on like what you want to do in your life, because obviously I envision that when I have this kid, it's going to require a much more selfless approach to life in order to like have that kid be raised in a good way. There may come a time later in the journey where you think, wow, I've got like no one to look after me and no one to like kind of have like a really deep, like that level of relationship with. Like there'll come a time where your son like looks after you at some point, which is a crazy thought.
Yeah, he's going to bury me. I'll put the money aside now.
He'll bury you if you ever die, if you end up taking like some kind of crazy thing that keeps you alive forever. But I believe there's something deep wired within us that requires us to have kids. Like it was never a concept to not have kids. Hunter-gatherer tribes, there wouldn't be like some that would be like, nah, I'm just going to like not bring more to the tribe. And
do you think the disconnect that we're experiencing with everything is a contributing factor to that?
Yeah, and there's so much like confusing programming. There's like, obviously it's very expensive and it's true. Like quality of cost of living is insane. Like everything in the supermarket is basically double price. So like there's lots of reasons to kind of think, oh, maybe I shouldn't, maybe like it's just not the world to bring kids into. But like those kids that we bring in will probably be the ones that can figure it out and solve the problem because they're going to grow up inside it. And it's always people that grow up inside it that solve it. That's why I'm trying to solve the phones, because I grew up with an iPhone from 10. And I think we, if you're not on the path of considering the kids, it'd be so important to just like really, really, really like deeply feel into that. Like the reason I'm having kids, like all my friends are like, what the fuck, why are you having kids so young? I'm 28, like it doesn't seem that young. My dad was 28. Like, why are you doing that? And I was like, just because, and lots of people would suggest like focus on your career, like focus on dopamine land, like just try and make loads of money. Da, da, da. But to me, it's like, what is the point in all that? Like I'm only here really to just reproduce the next generation.
What would be your closing lesson to a listener, something actionable that they should do to feel better? And one
Before
thing,
we go to, I really want to answer the creator question.
okay. We haven't been to that.
You did ask a question. I don't know if
Is
it
this
may be
because
real.
you felt personally attacked for once in the episode that maybe you could be a slight marginal hypocrite with your advice? Is that right? Is this an admissive part of the episode where you get to clear your conscience?
It is. I mean,
I'll be the priest behind the shutter door. Confess your sins, boy.
the irony of suggesting to the world to not watch short form content while sitting at my computer and very carefully crafting short form content that will engage people and really carefully crafting it. Like I think it through for freaking hours.
And retention, editing.
How can I hold them? Everything. And that's a painful irony that like for me, I've had to justify that I'm effectively like standing in a fast food chain, handing out healthy food to people that want to eat it. That's how I've kind of constructed it in my mind. Like at least I'm trying to get them out.
Get off your phones, but not too much.
Yeah, get off your phones. We come back and check in tomorrow.
But I've got a book on pre-order.
And if you can't be on Instagram anymore, like join my email list. But and it is funny because I'll have people like on the email list message me like, because of you, like I quit Instagram and I'm like, okay, another person gone that I can't like now teach.
Don't ever unsubscribe.
So it's a ridiculous situation. But there will be many creators out there creating content and experiencing the immense mental health effect of creating content. And it is huge what can happen with your mental health with good and bad content and with highs and lows in your engagement and views.
Shitty comments.
Shitty comments and...
Comments about your hairline.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure those are coming. My hairline's gradually going, so those will turn up soon. But the difficulty within your like dopamine system in terms of your like expectation reality of content is something to start like really becoming aware of how it's impacting your mental health. Because when you post a piece of content, you may generate a certain level of expectation as to how it will do. And with our dopamine pathway, it will either rise or fall, not based on reality, but based on the expectation of what reality was going to be. So if you think, for example, that your birthday is going to be fucking amazing, it's like, it's going to be the best birthday of my life, and then it's just like a medium birthday, then you're actually going to be depressed with that birthday because you set the expectation too high. And when you put content out and you think to yourself, like, this is going to get 10,000 likes, 5,000 likes, whatever your number is that is exciting to you, and then it under-delivers, your dopamine crashes so hard and so fast, worse than like alcohol and stuff like that. The speed of decline is so intense. And beginning to develop a understanding of that feeling and an awareness so that you actually understand that feeling is being generated by your social media and not necessarily external things within your life. Because someone might experience bad posts and it's like, fuck, that's an annoying dip. And then they're like, okay, now I'm in life and I've got like working kids and family and stuff. But then they think they're really fucked off about all of that, but they're not realizing they have been like biochemically crashed by their social media. Do you experience that feeling?
Do you know what I was about to say? There's one thing that I didn't even expect it, but I've kind of stumbled over a solution. I never thought I would get to a point in my career where someone else would post content for me, due to the complexities of being lazy. There are now people posting it for me.
And financial abundance.
Potentially. There's less of a connection to the content if I don't post it.
Yeah.
So if I post it and I go through manually getting the reel, putting it there, writing the caption, putting out, it's like my baby that goes out into the internet. I'm floating that message out there and I care about my baby. But if someone else posts it for me on my behalf, I have less of an attachment to it.
Yeah.
So that for me is quite a nice mechanism where I see it, I know it's mine, I know it belongs to me, but someone else did it, so it's kind of their project. So I'm much less likely to look at comments, much less likely to interact, much less likely to care. And that for me, the last year, I definitely think I used to care too much about followers, growth, all of this, because I was holding values in the wrong places. I will admit for a long time, I actually went through a Dunning-Kruger effect where I never used to...
Man, that Dunning-Kruger effect is so funny. I experienced that with mountain biking.
I went through a point where I didn't give a fuck about my following. Then I cared way too much. And then when I realized I cared way too much, I've come back to not caring. And it's quite nice. Probably in the last 6 months, my Instagram's probably shrunk by like 20,000.
Okay.
And I honestly don't care.
Yeah.
And that to me has been quite a revelation. I've grown socials in other places or whatever.
Yeah.
But before, I actually held my mental health on the fact that I would check my following most days. It was actually a very unhealthy habit because the power of how I felt for the day was out of my control. And all it took was for me to incorrectly use the word retard. And suddenly I lost 400 followers and I take that personally. When really it's just a word.
How was your mental health when those gummy videos did well?
I get a bit of anxiety when I post them.
Okay.
Because you're opening yourself up to, there's several things. And I've never been much of an anxious person, but the first one is just legal.
Yeah.
So if you get served legal, it's just never nice.
I assumed you were really thinking that part of it.
Yeah, and
or ChatGPT was.
What's been great is the man in the room over there called Luke. If I'm getting sued, I just forward it to him.
Okay, perfect.
And that's quite nice to do. But then you sometimes think about the other repercussions of maybe like a crazy fanatic trying to find you or turn up to an event and be like, you know, I don't think it would happen, but your imagination can get quite creative. I felt terrible the day we did the creatine gummy video because essentially I ruined someone's life that day. And that's very difficult to accept. Now, was the person guilty? Potentially, absolutely in some cases, but I can't help but feel when I went to bed that night, I knew that someone woke up the week before excited about their life, their business, everything. They were probably planning holidays, probably planning a new car, probably planning their future, doing the exact same thing I am.
Yeah.
And I had to ruin that reality for that person for the sake of saving tens of thousands of people from wasting their money. But it doesn't change the fact that I had to ruin someone's life. And I've got to carry that with me. It was no one else, it was me. I was in the video, I did the tests, I put it on my channel. I can't expect anyone else to burden that responsibility.
How does it weigh the benefit that you've created for humanity on the accountability of it versus the pain of that person?
Well, I don't feel any of the benefit of helping people.
You don't?
I've had maybe 2 people a day thank me for the creatine gummy video, but saving someone £20 a month is very different to ruining someone's life.
Interesting.
The weight of that, they don't equal up. £20 times 100,000 is very different to taking someone's career because that's going to hinder their confidence in their next business. It could tarnish their reputation. There are so many things there. That person, heaven forbid, could potentially go out and have a negative interaction with someone because of what I've done. Someone could even go up to them in Waitrose and say, "Oi, where's my money? Where you didn't do my refund because I didn't keep the empty bag from 4 months ago."
In a few years, when you discover another brand is doing it, do you reckon you'll run it back?
It's 2 so far.
So you're going to keep taking them down?
Chat shit, get banged.
Okay.
But it's a really horrible position to be in. And if I'm honest, there was a part of me that thought about never posting it. But then, you know, at the same time, you're just going to let loads of people get... It's always a lose-lose scenario for me.
And there's a big knock-on effect because many companies will have seen that and thought, oh, let's just check what's going on with how our systems are all working.
Of course. And
so
the benefit of that is...
that's big.
To be fair...
Especially in the supplement industry that can affect the body. So.
When the first supplement taken down, I thought that would be a shockwave. And it was 2 months later that people were doing it again.
Yeah, interesting.
So almost sometimes, you know, like chemotherapy, you have to really
explode everything.
You have to really nuke all the cells to make sure that it can survive long term. So that's
there's someone that's
essentially the way to do it. But I'd be lying if I didn't experience dopamine with success.
Yeah.
But mad anxiety when things do too well. I even had a video about podcasts on YouTube go viral. And I had people that were very influential message me and say, "Oh, I really enjoyed your video." And again, even, dare I say it, at this level, if someone messages me who I'm very fond of, it still feels very strange. Why is that person in my inbox? Why is this person talking to me? I get more of a sense of anxiety about it. Even with some of the guests that we've got coming up on the podcast.
Interesting.
It's very uncomfortable. So there's all of these kind of sides to social media that people don't see.
Yeah.
They think you're just incredibly fine with it. I still sometimes lay at night awake with anxiety that I'm going to sit here opposite a guest and not have a question to ask them.
Yeah, I mean, that's a fair anxiety to have.
Can you imagine that? Can you imagine someone coming in, traveling an hour on the train, sitting in front of me and I just forget to ask the next question? Or I just freeze. And then it's awkward for the rest of the conversation. Everyone watching realizes it.
How do you calm the anxiety?
I drink. No, I'm joking. No, I don't.
And just get drinking, everyone. That'll help.
I realized that the very part of my brain that makes me good at creative side of things is the very part of the brain that's the problem.
Seeing it as an asset is important though.
Because ultimately it is that creative part of the brain that is creating the anxiety-induced effect. They say that intelligent people are the easiest to fool because they can create narratives at a much faster rate as to what they're doing is right for whatever reason. More intelligent people are probably more susceptible to convert into a cult because they can create these narratives to stay in it. But yeah, it's an interesting one.
It's a big journey, and you're right in the detachment component to it. Like, you have to just spend as much time outside of it as possible. Like, I think many people might get very lost. Like, they post and then they check, and like that addictive loop is so hard. Like, my basically whole dopamine detoxing protocol that I've had to create in my life was born out of posting and then checking and being annoyed at something not doing well and finding that just would screw my day up. So then I was like, I'm just going to have to start creating limits where I post, and I'm not allowed to look till after dinner. And then it became I'm not allowed to look till the morning the next day, just to try and like allow myself to actually enjoy reality rather than just get stuck in that loop.
Call this the post and ghost.
You got to post and ghost that shit. And it's also so useful if you're a creator, because then like, because you can't go check your stuff, you also can't scroll that app. So then you're like just out, you're forced out.
Joe, some people might know this, not a lot. I haven't had a business bank account for 6 years.
Oh.
So if you said how much money do you have, I couldn't tell you. You'd have to ask Luke.
Wow, really?
Yeah, it's just, I don't want to know.
Stay away from the
So
numbers.
sometimes people are like, oh, I think we're going to write another book.
Yeah, that's what we're doing it.
Yeah. Oh, I think we need to bring the podcast back. I almost don't want to know. So I definitely have protective mechanisms within my own life where, again, you talk about the performance of things. Sometimes we've had to take the bank account down to a lower level with investments or whatever it is. Yeah. But then it's even nice not knowing that. Or
not to carry the anxiety.
Then recently, with a recent business I started for the first time, I'm paying my own tax bills.
That's a juggle.
So before, everything was paid in tax for me. Even my boss, Luke, would say, that corp tax was pretty
savage, those corp tax.
But I'm like, I don't want to know. I don't want to know.
I would have rather.
We've just hired someone for New Tonic. I don't want to know what the salary is. But then for one business that I started last year, I'm now having to take the full amount of the payment and give the money back to the government. We've got a loss aversion, right? So people are much more inclined to elicit an illegal behavior to avoid a loss than to benefit a gain. So if I said to you, would you go to the government and hack them and steal £20,000? You'd be like, absolutely not. But would you shave it off your tax bill? You'd consider it because you get the money, then you don't want to give it back. Yeah. The same way that if I paid you 10 grand in cash and you should really give 4,500 back to the government, that cash is going to be there. And because it's yours, it feels like a belonging. Another thing would be if we did an experiment and gave half the people a mug for free and half the people a chocolate bar, once they'd had it for 5 minutes, you asked them to swap. The people with the chocolate bar would go, I can't eat a fucking mug. And the people with the mug would go, I can't make a cup of tea with a fucking chocolate bar.
Interesting.
They become defensive. People overvalue the price of their property and their cars because once they've lived in it and had a relationship with it and seen the value of it, they will have a distorted effect of what that is valued to them. So with those people, again, wanting to avoid a loss, these are all psychological implications that play into human behavior. So yeah, that for me, I took a dividend of a nice amount of money and I turned around and said, the tax made me more depressed than the money made me happy. They say that a loss holds the weight psychologically of double the gain. So another context would be, if you left this studio today and you dropped a tenner, you would be, let's say, 50 fucked off. But if you found a tenner on the floor and picked it up, you'd only be a 25 happy.
That's interesting, isn't it? But if you think for the hunter-gatherers, not finding a deer would be more motivating than finding a deer. Like going out and losing and having a loss.
Not finding a deer would be a much worse pain than finding one would be. Yeah. You know, you'd come home double upset than you would be happy. So human beings are always looking to avoid loss. And these are some of the things that I put in my former books was like, these things don't work in unison. You have loss aversion, where you feel the pain of that. Then you have a negativity bias, where everything you think is leaning to a negative outcome. Every time I get a pain in my side, I'm like, fuck, I'm dying. You know, every time, you have like a bit of a heart palpitation, like, cool.
I sometimes get a little bit tight heart and I'm like, this is it.
Yeah, I'm just going to die.
Thanks for having me.
You're never like, oh, this is just my heart becoming stronger. You're like, that's it, I'm dying. Yeah. So we've got all these, exactly to the point of everything you said today, we have all these prehistoric things because without a negativity bias, we wouldn't be here.
Oh, no.
You'd see a river and go, I can swim that.
Yeah, I know. I could jump that waterfall.
Yeah, fine. But instead, looking at everything in life with a negative outcome, like that's drowning, that's saber-toothed tiger, although it looks cuddly, I don't think I'm going to go say hello to it. We kind of need all of these things. And it's kind of ironic to the point that all of the things we've spoken about today and all of their evolutionary purposes that we've had in life are potentially the same reason why we're so fucked in so many areas.
because evolution is trying to tell us this is the wrong path that we're currently on. And it's trying to scream that in our mind with mental health disability, effectively, because we're not aligned to the best evolutionary path for humanity to go on currently.
So your closing thought, actionable point for people, whether it's phone out the room, less phone time, locking the box down, what's the first barrier? Because we need to initiate the first step for them to go on this journey. What is it? What do you want to give people to close the episode? And the book will be linked in the description.
We got to consider what our life currently looks like. And it's basically wake up and grab small screen. Spend 10 hours glued to a medium-sized screen. Constantly procrastinate with the small screen. Eventually unwind and detox out of your work with a big screen, and then climb into bed and look at a small screen. And that's our whole life right now. It's just oscillating screens all day, every day. And in order to break that trap and discover that there's still a world out there that doesn't involve the screens, you have to start spending time in that new reality. And what I would guide people to do, whether alone or in a relationship, is to simply, in the next 7 days, as soon as you possibly can, preferably tonight, is to have a whole evening with no screens, no phones, no computers, no TVs. So you can experience an extreme difference. Because I could say to you, just like, don't scroll the phone while you watch the TV tonight. Find balance. But balance doesn't create significant change. You can't quit alcohol by gradually drinking 6 pints, then 5 pints. It doesn't work like that. You have to create a different reality to come back to a new middle. If tonight you think, okay, I'm going to attempt this. I'm going to try a whole evening without screens. This is going to be hard. It's going to be boring. I might get annoyed with my partner by having to talk to them. You could go to the supermarket this afternoon and buy yourself a particularly nice meal to cook. So it's like a fun process. You could get the steak with the rosemary, with the butter, and turn it into like a big process of making a really nice dinner. You make it slowly and you eat it as slowly as you can. You then go for a nice walk. You take your kids out. If you've got kids, you put them to bed, you go for a walk. You try and spend time outside. You walk slowly and you experience a slower journey through that walk. And then you come home. You can talk to your partner. You can sit alone and read. And you're just going to have one evening without staring at the small, big, or medium screen. And you'll come to discover in the morning that you will think, I slept better, I felt calmer, I'm dialed in today to achieve my goals. And you might consider a life with less screens in the future.
I think Monopoly sales are going to go through the fucking roof. Thank you very much for coming on.
Thanks for having me, man.